75%. Chapter 361. It seems that you were the first to surrender and beg for mercy, sister. Dry. After Luo Yulian finished speaking, Liang Bing was silent for a while, then finally raised his head and shouted. The demon clan dares to love and hate. Since you have an idea for Xiao Chen, why can't you be bold and attack him directly? Okay, after the young master breaks through the Saint King realm, I will find an opportunity to confuse the young master, and then, you go first. Hearing Liang Bing's answer, Luo Yulian's eyes lit up and he immediately said with a smile. Why should I go first? Liang Bing was stunned when he heard this and said with some doubts. Could it be that this guy has any special hobbies? I have no experience. Seeing the suspicion on Liang Bing's face, Luo Yulian was a little embarrassed. You think I am an experienced person? Liang Bing rolled his eyes when he heard this and looked at the other party angrily. Both of them have lived for thousands of years, but neither of them has experienced actual combat. At most, they just try to explore on their own sometimes. Now that they were about to actually take action, they were a bit panicked. Boom. Just when Luo Yulian and Liang Bing were staring at each other, a powerful aura erupted from Xiao Chen's room. This made Luo Yulian and Liang Bing's eyes narrow. Young master has broken through to the Saint King realm. After a moment of silence, Luo Yulian exclaimed with a complicated expression. In those days, it took her 600 to 700 years to break through from the Saint realm to the Saint King. And Xiao Chen actually only took less than a month. This kind of cultivation speed is simply scary. You guys wait for me in the room. After my husband comes back from the catastrophe, we can continue playing music and dancing. When Luo Yulian couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Chen sensed that the heavenly tribulation qi machine was locked on him, said something to Kaiyan and others, then tore the void and disappeared. Originally, he thought he could suppress his cultivation for 2 or 3 days. Unexpectedly, with the help of the girls, the suppressed true energy was like a wild horse, uncontrollably breaking through the cultivation barrier. As a result, he can only go to transcending tribulation first during halftime. You are so useless. Everyone fell for them, but they couldn't even last 4 hours in the first round. It's really bad. After seeing Xiao Chen leave, Kaiyan said angrily. When he entered the door, he was very aggressive and wanted to vent his anger on Lu Ruoxian's behalf. As a result, within 4 hours, everyone was beaten to the ground. It's really like a group of tigresses and jackals before entering, but after entering, they turned into a group of milk cats and puppies. Women are made of water. They are electrically charged and heat generating, and they are blessed with exercises and physiques. Even if we are outnumbered, we cannot withstand this kind of attack. Moreover, it seems that you were the first one to surrender and beg for mercy just now. Hearing that her sister hated iron, Kai Dai said with an aggrieved look on her side. As for Duan Muzuiying, Marong Qingshe and others, they all lowered their heads in shame and embarrassment. If you don't say the last sentence, will you die? Hearing Kai Dai's words, Kai Yan's brows rose and she immediately grabbed the other person's ears. Then he snorted unconvinced. Restore your breathing. When my husband comes back, this time, we must find a place to make him live and die. Come on. As soon as my brother-in-law breaks through to the Saint King realm, his combat power will double and skyrocket. We should be the ones who can't survive or die. After Kai Yan finished speaking, Kai Dai couldn't help but muttered. These words made Kaiyan's expression stiffen slightly. The next moment his face turned red, he grabbed his ears and lifted them up. Katie grimaced in pain. You are such a damn girl. If you grow up with other people's ambitions, you will destroy your own prestige. Let's see how I deal with you next. As these words fell, the room became lively. While the two sisters were fighting, thunder arcs flashed continuously hundreds of miles away in the sky. The terrifying power of heaven and earth caused thousands of miles around to tremble. Even Yun Luoshang, Tian Xingjian and others were alarmed. They all opened their eyes and looked in the direction of Xiao Chen. Saint King level purple extreme thunder tribulation. Seeing the purple color in the sky, Yun Luoshang and Tian Xingjian's pupils shrank. Although they have already heard it from the mouths of Tianxi and Dawang Patriarch. I learned that when Xiao Chen broke through into the Saint realm, he triggered the terrifying purple heaven tribulation. But at this time, seeing with their own eyes that Xiao Chen caused the purple heavenly tribulation, and that he was still at the Saint King level, they were still shocked. And in the void, seeing the purple sky thunder raging in the sky is enough to make countless monsters in the world despair. Not only was there no trace of panic on Xiao Chen's face, but there was a hint of enthusiasm and excitement. Purple extreme thunder tribulation. Perhaps for other monsters, it is a terrifying disaster that is difficult to survive. But for him, it's just a supplement. Next moment. As if he felt that Xiao Chen was too casual, the deafening sound of thunderstorms continued to echo throughout the world. The thunderbolts were like thousands of dragons coming out of the sea, overwhelmingly blasting towards Xiao Chen. Well done. Let everything be turned into nutrients for the growth of chaos pure world thunder fire. Seeing the thunder and lightning bombarding the sky, Xiao Chen let out a low shout, and the thunder and fire light shot up into the sky. Then it turned into a stream of light and collided with thousands of thunders. The roar shook the world. Countless thunders flooded Xiao Chen's figure, and the vast void that was originally in the middle of the night was lit up by thunder at this moment. Xiao Chen's aura did not weaken at all. Instead, it was like a demon coming to the world, plunging into the thunderclouds in the sky. The purple thunder clouds seemed to be enraged, and they kept erupting in the void with panic. But facing Xiao Chen, an outlier. Even if this guy is burned to a crisp, he can recover in an instant. And the physical body is tempered by the thunder, becoming more indestructible every time. This is the terrifying thing about injuries that can be repaired infinitely if you have enough points. After seeing my arrival, Senior Yun Yun changed her clothes and said she would show me her 108 cooking skills later. This shocked me. Even Ziji Thunder Tribulation can't do anything to the opponent. This Lord Demon Lord is really terrifying. Feeling that Xiao Chen's aura was rising, Yun Luoshang, Tian Xingjian and others sighed and stopped paying attention to the movement in the void. Xiao Chen spent the Saint King Thunder Tribulation, which was completely destined. They should just relax and refine the imperial medicine to achieve a breakthrough in cultivation. Really. While Yun Luoshang, Lu Ruoxian and others were not worried, the Ziji Thunder Tribulation, after raging for an hour, could only dissipate in the rolling process. The power of the heavenly tribulation turned into a frenzy and flowed down lightly, and Xiao Chen greedily absorbed this power. Saint King's 5th level. After another 2 hours passed, it was already noon the next day, and Xiao Chen opened his eyes in the void. Feeling the terrifying power of true energy surging within his body, Xiao Chen frowned slightly. The last time he broke through to the Saint Realm, he rushed to the 7th level of the Saint Realm in one breath. But this time he broke through to the Saint King Realm, even with the power of thunder from the Purple Tribulation, and the power of creation after the Transcending Tribulation. After absorbing and refining them all, they can only reach this state. Sure enough, the further you advance in cultivation, the more difficult it is to improve. But he was already very satisfied with the fact that he could skyrocket to 5 small realms with one breakthrough. Husband, the Transcending Tribulation is over. Kaiyan, Duan Muzuying and others walked out of the room and looked at the majestic figure standing hundreds of miles away in the void. Each of their hearts was trembling with emotion. In less than 3 months, Xiao Chen actually stepped into the Saint King realm earlier than them. This indescribably terrifying breakthrough speed really made them lose the confidence to catch up. Now is not the time to shock your husband's breakthrough in cultivation. But if my husband wants to do it next, can we be able to withstand it? As these words fell, Kaiyan and others fell into silence. Xiao Chen sometimes, once on top, it will go into a state of rage. With the opponent's current strength, if he gets too excited, woo-woo, it's so cruel, I don't dare to think about it. 75%. Chapter 362. You really deserve some punishment, so that you can remember this. Young master has survived the thunder tribulation. When Kaiyan and others felt shocked and worried one by one, Luo Yulian and Liang Bing stood on a roof, looking at the figure in the void and said softly, "Are you ready? Next, it's time for us to perform." After his eyes flickered for a moment, Luo Yulian raised his hand and scattered a handful of flowers, and said solemnly to Liang Bing, "As long as the two of us work together, there's no man we can't take down. Remember. You will come first in a moment." Quote. Hearing Luo Yulian's words, Liang Bing couldn't help but be speechless. "I really want to say something. Can you, Xiao Bicha, have some potential?" But feeling that he was a little nervous at this time, Liang Bing opened his mouth and finally said nothing. Just when the two of them thought about it, after Xiao Chen felt his surge in power, he tore through the void and rushed towards the Xiao family. A distance of hundreds of miles. For Saint King Realm experts, it is only a few breaths away. Next moment, under the watchful eyes of Kaiyan and others, a hole was torn open in the void of the Xiao family courtyard, and Xiao Chen's figure also appeared in the courtyard. "Madams, next, we can continue playing music and dancing." At the moment when the figure emerges. Seeing the nervous expressions on Kyan and others' faces, Xiao Chen couldn't help but make a joke. Husband, you have just made a breakthrough. Your cultivation is still a bit unstable, so why don't you stop dancing for now? Let's consolidate our cultivation. Watching Xiao Chen's body burst out with thunder and fire from time to time, filled with a kind of terrifying fluctuation that makes people's hearts palpitate. Duanmu Zuying swallowed her saliva and suggested with a trembling voice. They have just entered the Saint Realm cultivation level. If Xiao Chen accidentally shocks them, they may twitch all over and foam at the mouth. I can still bear it after smoking it a few times. If they were whipped more than a dozen times, they would really go to heaven. But without your help, how can my husband better control this body's cultivation? Seeing that Kyan and others were all cowed, Xiao Chen couldn't help but want to tease them. But right now, just as Xiao Chen finished speaking and before Kyan and others could speak, a figure suddenly fell from the house. A deep hole was made in the courtyard, which shocked Xiao Chen and others. Oh my god, Saint King, you damn bitcha, I will definitely kill you. At the same time as this figure fell to the ground, Liang Bing's voice sounded like a madman. A terrifying demonic aura swept out of Liang Bing's body. The expressions of Kyan and others changed. Obviously he didn't know. Liang Bing was fine, so why did he suddenly go crazy? Sir, Liang Bing is suffering from the backlash of demonic energy. He is about to go crazy. After Liang Bing let out a low roar, Luo Yulian also fell from above, and her cultivation force exploded to suppress Liang Bing. He spoke to Xiao Chen in a hurry. This caused Kyan and others' complexions to change again. They were being attacked by the demonic energy and were about to become possessed. Why did it happen so suddenly? The demonic energy backfires. Go crazy. Compared with the drastic change in the expressions of Kyan and others, Xiao Chen had a strange look on his face after glancing at Liang Bing. A descendant of a pure-blooded demon royal family who can easily demonize others, how could he be counterattacked by the demonic energy? Bitcha, this king is going to kill you. At the same time, Liang Bing looked up with red eyes as if he was in a drama, and his demonic energy surged again. This situation, even Tianxi, Ancestor Dawang and others were alerted, and they rushed to the courtyard where Xiao Chen was. The demon lord's wife has gone crazy. Tian Xie was startled when he saw what was happening in front of him, and he quickly used his cultivation power to block the void to prevent Liang Bing from accidentally injuring Xiao Chen. Then he stared at Liang Bing with a solemn expression. Obviously, I can't figure it out. How could someone so good suddenly become possessed by a demon? Husband, Sister Liang Bing. Is she really obsessed? Seeing that Liang Bing was temporarily suppressed, Kyan and others looked worried. Although Liang Bing has not yet committed herself to Xiao Chen, in the eyes of their group, she is almost Xiao Chen's woman. At this time, seeing each other like this, they were all quite worried. I want to experience the cooking skills of Senior Yun Yun. I suddenly heard someone calling me brother. When I looked back, I found that it was Yun Ying, the third eldest child of the Yun family. She seemed to have grown up and started to show off. How did she become obsessed? After Kyan and others finished speaking, Xiao Chen raised his hand to signal them not to be nervous, looked at Luo Yulian and asked. Sister Liang Bing just talked to me about the abyss world. I don't know why my emotions suddenly got out of control, and then it became like this. After Xiao Chen spoke, Luo Yulian explained. But when he saw Xiao Chen, his eyes looked very calm, as if he had seen through everything. Luo Yulian's words became softer and softer, and finally she couldn't help but lower her head. Then what should I do? Seeing that Luo Yulian became a little guilty when he spoke, Xiao Chen asked with a half smile. Young master just needs to find a secluded place and use the power of thunder and fire to help Liang Bing. Luo Yulian said after hearing this. But talking and talking. Seeing the look in Xiao Chen's eyes that had seen through everything, Luo Yulian couldn't finish the next words. Really, in front of the young master. Even if their performance can be fake and real, they will still be easily seen through by the other party. This made Luo Yulian feel frustrated and uneasy. Sir, we were wrong. Actually, Liang Bing is not obsessed at all. She is the body of two of our greedy young masters. She plans to put on a show and commit herself to the young master. But we have ignored that our poor performance cannot fool the young master at all. Master, please don't blame me. The two of us are willing to accept any punishment from young master. After feeling that the trick had been seen through, Luo Yulian immediately said with some shame. These words, not only Kyan and others were dumbfounded, but even Liang Bing was stunned. Damn, this Xiao Bicha is really unreliable. If we work together we will definitely win over the young master, yet you're selling me out before we even start. After hearing Luo Yulian's words, Liang Bing couldn't help but uttered a curse word. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to get in. She felt that there was nothing wrong with her performance just now. Unexpectedly, Luo Yulian was defeated first. No matter what the purpose is, since you are the people around me, just tell me if you have anything to say. You don't need to use tricks like this to achieve your goals. I don't like this. Looking at Luo Yulian and Liang Bing, Xiao Chen said in a low voice. This made Luo Yulian and Liang Bing tremble slightly, and both of them lowered their heads in shame. They all realized the crux of the problem. Even if their starting point is to become Xiao Chen's woman, it will not hurt each other. On the contrary, in the eyes of ordinary people, this is taking advantage of the other party. But using clever tricks to achieve a goal seems a bit impure in itself, and it will also cause some resentment if you find out afterwards. Obviously, Xiao Chen doesn't like this. Sir, we were wrong. The two of us are willing to accept any punishment from the young master. I hope that the young master will not show mercy and let us remember this lesson. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Luo Yulian raised his head and gritted his teeth. You do deserve some punishment to remind you of this. Xiao Chen raised the corner of his mouth slightly when he heard this, and continued to speak in a gentle voice. Then I'll punish you too. Instead of Cayenne, wait for them to bear my anger, and help me completely consolidate this cultivation. 75%. Chapter 363. It's only been a few days. Is this the 8th level of Saint King? The moonlight is like water. After the news of Xiao Chen transcending tribulation shocked thousands of miles around, the Xiao family also experienced a rare peace when night fell. Certainly, this kind of calmness is only relative to Cayenne, Duan Muzuiying and others. As for Luo Yulian and Liang Bing, they both received a severe lesson. Even Luo Yulian and Liang Bing, both of whom had supreme level cultivation, screamed in agony during this offensive. Liang Bing was a little unconvinced at first, and even cursed when he was excited. But with the blessing of the power of thunder and fire, even if Liang Bing has supreme cultivation level, he can be dealt with obediently. 3 days and 3 nights later. Saint King 8th level. Feeling the current level of cultivation, Xiao Chen showed a trace of regret on his face. This time, although 2 supreme powerhouses assisted him in consolidating his cultivation. However, Luo Yulian's cultivation level has only reached the 4th level of supreme, which is a big difference from his previous cultivation level. After feeding back, he can only advance to a small level. Although Liang Bing was once a powerful person in the Emperor realm, he also had pure blood of the demon royal family. But the opponent's current cultivation level has only returned to the supreme 8th level. Taken together, the feedback effect of primordial yin will be greatly reduced, so even if Xiao Chen can accept the gift perfectly, his cultivation will only improve by 3 small realms. After all, he is not an ordinary Saint King realm powerhouse. Every time he improves his cultivation, the energy required is greater than that of the Emperor's son of the same level. But it was less than 7 days. Just rising from the 7th level of the Saint to the 8th level of the Saint King, the breakthrough speed of this cultivation level is almost like a joke. With my current level of cultivation, I am invincible in the Supreme Realm. The 3 Saint King Realm cultivation experience cards every month are of no use. Even Xiao Chen himself was surprised that he had reached a great level in just a few days. Unfortunately, the cultivation experience card can only be used by those bound to the system and cannot be used by others. Otherwise, the 3 Saint King Realm cultivation experience cards every month can be used as trump cards to be given to Cayenne and others. This breakthrough has been delayed for several days, and it's time to head to the eastern domain. Looking at Luo Yulian and Liang Bing who were asleep, Xiao Chen did not disturb them at this time, and disappeared into the wing in a slight flash. She was very surprised to see me. Sister Yunying asked me if I came to see my eldest sister to study bioengineering. She said that she could only peek when she was little, but now she can participate in the research. At the same time, within the dark restricted area. Impossible. I have been deducing for 7 days and 7 nights. How come I can't deduce any information? What method did this woman use? After these words resounded, an indescribable terrifying coercion immediately swept across the entire dark restricted area. Many of the powerful Emperor realm men in the restricted area raised their heads at this moment, with a look of horror on their faces. Obviously, he didn't know what kind of things would make the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone furious. That's right. The owner of this voice is the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone. A person who has reached the ultimate level of the 9th level of the Emperor and is the master of the Night Demon clan among all clans. Yi Lan. More than 300 years ago. In order to have a chance to reach the Emperor, he did not hesitate to lead many powerful demon spirits in the dark restricted area. Hunting Lu Ruoxian wants to capture the opponent's 10,000-year-old Lu Muxin. Unexpectedly, Lu Ruoxian's combat power was extremely terrifying. He only relied on his cultivation at the 8th level of the Emperor to kill 2 powerful emperors in the dark restricted area. After he, the master of the penalty area, takes action, the opponent can not only block several waves of his attacks. He could even use secret techniques to dismantle his body and severely injure him, forcing him to return to the dark restricted area to recover from his injuries. Over the past 300 years, he could vaguely sense the curse remaining on Lu Ruoxian. Although he could not sense Lu Ruoxian's specific situation, he was sure that the other party had not died, but was just hiding in a corner of the eastern domain. Some time ago, his injuries finally fully recovered, and he tried to sense Lu Ruoxian's position. But he didn't know if it was because the distance was too far, but he still couldn't feel Lu Ruoxian's specific location. He could only sense that the dark and ominous curse still existed. But a few days ago, the ominous power he penetrated into Lu Ruo's immortal physique suddenly lost all connection with him. And this is only one case. That is the dark and ominous power he left behind, which has been completely refined and eradicated by Lu Ruoxian. This means, not only did Lu Ruoxian not die, his injuries were probably recovered. If the opponent is not found as soon as possible, Lu Ruoxian will be an unimaginable hidden danger to the entire dark restricted area. After all, the opponent was able to severely injure him with his cultivation at the 8th level of the Emperor. His combat power was terrifying among those at the same level. Now that the 100 Beasts mountain range has been destroyed, the other party can be said to be alone. If Lu Ruoxian wanted to take revenge on the Dark Forbidden Zone, he, the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone, and a few of the late-stage Emperor Realm experts would be the only ones left. All the other strong men of the Night Demon Spirit clan will die if they meet Lu Ruoxian. What Yi Lan didn't expect was that after he used an extreme Dao Emperor weapon, he still couldn't deduce Lu Ruoxian's specific location. This result was unacceptable to him. I asked you to find that 1,000-year-old willow tree, but you have been looking for more than 300 years and still haven't found it. They are all a bunch of trash. With rage in his heart, Yi Lan roared at the other powerful emperors of the Night Demon clan. The terrifying emperor's power caused thousands of miles of space to tremble, filled with countless members of the Demon Spirit clan and numerous dark monsters. They were all paralyzed and trembling on the ground. All demon spirits, please get out and look for me. If no clues about Lu Shen are found within a month, I will refine all of you into demon puppets. As this order fell, the entire dark restricted area shook. Many powerful demon spirits walked out of the dark restricted area, used various means to sneak into various parts of the eastern domain, and began to search for clues about Lu Ruoxian. As for the actions in the dark restricted area, Xiao Chen and others were not aware of it at this time, and the inner courtyard of the Xiao family was still peaceful. 3 days and 3 nights. It's good to be strong in cultivation. I can't stand it for so long. When will I have such endurance? In the inner courtyard of the Xiao family, Xiao Meyer held her chin, looked at Xiao Chen's wing, and said with envy. Her cultivation has improved rapidly during this period, but she has only reached the 3rd level of Grotto Heaven. This kind of cultivation is almost catching up with Xiao Mingyi and others, but it is much worse than Xiao Chen, Kai Yan and others. Cultivation is weak. The endurance is naturally much weaker. Even though Xiao Chen could control his strength very well, they couldn't hold on for long every time. Unlike Kaiyan and others, they can endure hardships. The feelings they can experience are not comparable to them. This made Xiao Meyer and others feel a sense of frustration, and also gave rise to the idea of crazily improving their cultivation. After all, if the gap in cultivation is too big in the future, the essence power contained in a drop of Xiao Chen's holy liquid can burst their bodies on the spot. So, mortals and the Great Emperor cannot combine, and this is often the case. The levels of life are completely different. How can mortal physique and imperial body be combined? 75%. Chapter 364. Arranging affairs for the girls and preparing to go to the eastern domain. But when Xiao Meyer felt envious. As the space rippled, Xiao Chen's figure also emerged. Husband, look at the figure in front of you. Marong Qingshe, Duan Muzuing and others' eyes lit up, and they stood up from the stone bench with surprised expressions. Apparently they didn't expect Xiao Chen to come out of seclusion so soon. They thought that Xiao Chen, Luo Yulian and Liang Bing would spend 7 or 8 days in the room. Unexpectedly, I was released from seclusion in just 3 days. However, Liang Bing and Luo Yulian did not follow them out, and they must have passed out in the room from exhaustion. Really, under Xiao Chen's thunderous golden spear, even the strongest in the supreme realm could not persist forever. Where are Ruoxian and Sukin? After glancing around and not seeing Lu Ruoxian, Bai Suxin and others, Xiao Chen asked with a somewhat surprised voice. Sister Ruoxian is still in seclusion and said she is going to return to the Emperor's realm. As for Su Xin and Su Qin, they said they rarely come back to the Xiao family in Luyun City, so they went to the Qingqiu Fox clan to visit their families and clan members. Marong Qingshe responded obediently after hearing this. Hear this. Xiao Chen didn't worry about anything. Now all the dark and ominous power in Lu Ruoxian's body has been swallowed up and refined. Even if you don't use system functions for shielding, you won't be sensed by the owner of the dark restricted area. As for Bai Suxin and Bai Sukin, one has reached the 8th level of nirvana, and the other has reached the 9th level of heaven and man, and he still has the treasures given by him. You can almost walk sideways in Shiwanda Mountain. Husband, now, what kind of cultivation are you? After the few people exchanged a few words, Kaiyan looked at Xiao Chen and asked somewhat complicatedly. My cultivation has always been high and low, no matter what the specific cultivation is. Seeing Kaiyan like this, Xiao Chen replied with a slight smile. Husband, don't worry that I will think too much. I just want to know, what is the difference between me and my husband now? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Kaiyan shook her head and said. Staring at Xiao Chen with burning eyes, Xiao Chen felt a little helpless, and finally he could only speak truthfully. Saint King 8th level. As these words fell, Kaiyan's body trembled slightly, and her fists couldn't help but clenched. Duan Muzuing and others on the side were all stunned. Saint King 8th level. I just passed the Saint King Thunder Tribulation a few days ago, and now I am in the 8th level of the Saint King. If they hadn't experienced it themselves, they would never have dared to dream that such outrageous things could happen in this world. My husband is really astonished. After a moment of silence, Kaiyan looked emotional. In just over 3 months, she grew from the 9th level of heaven to the 8th level of sainthood. This kind of cultivation advancement speed is enough to shock the world. But he still can't keep up with Xiao Chen's pace, and now he's even pushed to a higher level. This made Kaiyan feel a sense of frustration in her proud heart. Once the Xiao family's affairs are settled in the past 2 days, I will take you to the eastern domain to explore. If you can find some treasures that match the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python, it is not impossible for your cultivation to improve quickly. Looking at the two sisters Kai Yan and Kai Dai, Xiao Chen comforted them with a gentle voice. From the queen standing in front of her to the little wife behind her. This change is indeed a big blow to Kaiyan. After hearing the conversation between Yun Ying and me, Senior Yun, she said that this was a technical job. Without her guidance, something might happen, and she would have to take care of the situation. I was confused. Husband, Zi Luo and I will not go to the eastern domain next. In the conversation between several people, Zi Ling suddenly spoke at this moment. Now, under the leadership of the Huo family, the Xian Chamber of Commerce has controlled the economic lifeline of the 7 dynasties. We need a little time to deal with the Chamber of Commerce affairs. Finished. Zi Ling looked at Xiao Chen expectantly, obviously hoping that the other party would agree to this matter. Although I stay with Xiao Chen, I can have sex with him. But it makes them feel like they are worthless. Therefore, they hope to have a stage where they can show their abilities and let them shine their own light. If you have ideas, I will support them. Xiao Chen nodded when he heard this and did not deny the decision. Although the treasures on his body, if he took out a piece of royal weapon, it would be enough to buy the 7 dynasties. But his woman has ideals, so he can't just ignore her. After all, there is a space array disk. If you want to be gentle, you can meet each other at any time. There is no need to tie each other tightly. Thank you, husband. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Zi Lin and Zi Luo kissed Xiao Chen on the cheek, with a happy and sweet smile on their faces. Strong, gentle, considerate. This is a partner that no matter how many female cultivators pray to God or Buddha, they cannot find. Unexpectedly, they encountered her. What about you? After Ziling and Ziluo made their decision, Xiao Chen looked at Duan Muzuying and others. We just plan to wait for my husband to come back at Wanwaman. Duan Muzuying and others looked at each other and responded softly. Now all the 8 top executives of Wanwaman have broken through to the Saint Realm. This kind of cultivation. In the Eastern Domain, he is a first-rate transcendent level expert, but in the Eastern Domain, he is only a middle to lower level weakling. This trip Xiao Chen entered Eastern Domain. They might encounter powerful emperors, and if a fight broke out on the way, they would have to be careful to protect them. So, they still stay in the Eastern Wasteland for the time being, and then enter the Eastern Domain to explore. This way it will be safer. Let's go to Wanhua Gate to practice with Sister Zuying and the others. After Duan Muzuying finished speaking, Xiao Meyer, Marong Qingshe and others also expressed their decisions. They also practice the Wanwaman technique. With the guidance of Duan Muzuying and others, his cultivation level can be improved faster. Since you all want to devote yourself to cultivation, then I will find a good cultivation place for you. That place is definitely more suitable for you than the Xiao family. After hearing the words of Duan Muzuying and others, Xiao Chen's eyes flickered and he smiled lightly. Does your husband mean Taiyan sect? Duan Muzuying's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this, and he naturally thought of this sect. Wanwaman was born out of Taiyan sect. The Taiyan sect is one of the major supreme forces in the southern part of profound heaven. The cultivation environment of the sect is bound to be good, and since their techniques all have the same origin, it is indeed the most suitable place for them. Well, if you want, Taiyan sect. Can be changed to Wanhua sect in the future. Xiao Chen nodded when he heard this. Too many things have happened during this period, and the major forces in the southern part of profound heaven have not yet been completely conquered. In the past, these major forces can still cause trouble to him, but now they are nothing but existences that can be destroyed with a snap of a finger. He killed 2 supreme warriors of the Taiyan sect and subdued the other 4 supreme elders. More than half of the sect's senior officials are already under his control. If the Taiyan sect leader and other high-level officials were ignorant, Xiao Chen wouldn't mind completely erasing them from the world. Duan Muzuying and others were silent for a long time after hearing this, their beautiful eyes full of admiration and fanatical love. Let a supreme force fall into their control. This has happened in the past. They couldn't even think about it. But now it is a very common thing, because their husbands have the capital. What about you, Lingji? When Duan Muzuying and others were shocked, Xiao Chen looked at Huo Lingji. My family practices fire-based skills, which are very close to my husband's attributes. So Lingji, I want to shamelessly follow my husband, but I wonder if Dao Dao will find me troublesome. Huo Lingji looked charming when she heard this, and replied in a soft voice. This sound, as soon as he opened his mouth, he wanted Xiao Chen to run away. However, Xiao Chen did not refuse Huo Lingji's request. After all, it was indeed the best for her to practice dual cultivation with him. Yunxi, where are you? After asking everyone, Xiao Chen's eyes fell on Yunxi, who was mumbling and with droopy rabbit ears. Seeing that the other party seemed a little unhappy, Xiao Chen asked with a smile. 76%. Chapter 365. I hope that you, this exclusive little maid, can make the young master feel physically and mentally happy. Ah, hearing Xiao Chen's sudden inquiry, Yunxi was slightly startled and raised her head in confusion. Master, I was thinking about something just now and didn't listen carefully to what you said. Speaking of which, there was a hint of embarrassment on Yunxi's pretty face, and she lowered her head in embarrassment. Don't be nervous, I just want to ask you, what are your plans next? Seeing that Yunxi seemed afraid that he would blame the other party for not listening to them carefully, Xiao Chen replied in a gentle voice. I want to help the young master bathe and change clothes. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, Yunxi mustered up the courage at this moment to say this to Xiao Chen. This made Xiao Chen, Kai Yan and others look slightly startled. Obviously didn't expect Yunxi would pop out this sentence. After Yunxi finished speaking, she also noticed everyone's surprise, and her pretty face turned red at this moment. Good. Looking at Yunxi's trembling but firm gaze, Xiao Chen smiled and nodded. After all the troubles were sorted out the other day, Xiao Chen asked Kaiyan and others to help him repair it, but because Yunxi was still a baby, he couldn't completely let go for a while. So the other day, Yunxi did not participate in the melee. Afterwards, he broke through to the Saint King realm, and was intercepted by Luo Yulian and Liang Bing, who actually left the little girl in the cold. Sister Kaiyan, do you want to come together? After hearing Xiao Chen's answer, Yun Zai's face showed ecstasy. Then, as if he thought of something, he looked at Kyan and others nervously. Don't worry, we won't steal your young master this time. You can enjoy it alone later. Kyan raised the corners of her mouth slightly when she heard this. He immediately moved closer to Yunxi and spoke in a cold and lustful voice. Yunxi was so amused that her face turned red. Master, Yunxi is going to prepare the bath water first. The next moment, Yunxi was shy and ran to the backyard. After summarizing his next plan, Xiao Chen also came to another room. Opened the door. Then I saw a light breath of fresh air, mixed with a kind of fragrance, wafting out of the house. Yunxi, on the other hand, stood timidly next to the bath with a red face. Master, the water temperature is just right, you can take a bath. Watch Xiao Chen walking over. Yunxi clasped hands and said nervously. His heart was pounding in his chest like a deer, as if it was about to topple two Saintis peaks. Why do you still call me master? After hearing Yun Zai's name, Xiao Chen asked with a slight smile. Others have already changed their tune. Only this little girl still calls her by this name. Yunxi likes this title. It will make Yunxi feel that I have always been the young master's exclusive maid. Yunxi said with a shy look on his face. After hearing this, Xiao Chen couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Obviously he didn't expect Yunxi to have such a hobby. Since you insist so much, then let the young master satisfy your hobby. I hope that your exclusive little maid can make the young master feel physically and mentally happy. After being stunned for a moment, Xiao Chen approached Yunxi and spoke with a magnetic voice. Master. Yun Zai's pretty face heated up when she heard this, and she raised her head and was about to say something. But she found that Xiao Chen had already leaned down and blocked her mouth, causing her mind to roar. While we were chatting, senior sister Yun walked in and said that the food was ready. She asked me to eat more later so that I would have the strength to work. I am a guest. Do you want me to work? The next day, within the 100,000 mountains. As two auras exploded into the sky, the terrifying imperial power swept across the world. Yun Luosheng and Tian Xingjian. Breaking through to the next level almost at the same time. One has entered the 8th level of the Emperor's realm, and the other has entered the 7th level of the Emperor's realm. The combat power has almost doubled compared to before. I never imagined that I would be able to break through again in my lifetime. All of this is thanks to the gift from the Demon Lord. After sighing in my heart, Yun Luosheng and Tian Xingjian returned to the Xiao family almost one after the other. Also at this time, there was also an aura erupting into the sky within the Xiao family, and Lu Ruoxian's figure appeared in the void. Under the lingering silver-green light, the whole person's figure looks a bit majestic. A terrifying imperial power also swept across the world. This made Yun Luosheng, Tian Xingjian and others' pupils shrink slightly at this moment. Such a breath. He actually reached the 2nd level of the Emperor. Where is your husband? After restraining his aura, Lu Ruoxian fell into the courtyard and asked Kyan and the others. Although last time, she didn't really commit to each other, but they both tried everything they should. So it was natural for her to address him as husband. My husband and that little girl Yunxi have been alone together all night. With that little girl's endurance, the two of them should be out soon. Upon hearing Lu Ruoxian's inquiry, Kyan responded softly. Yun Luosheng on the side. After hearing the conversation between the two people, his expression froze slightly at this time. But soon there was a hint of relief. Yunxi has followed Xiao Chen since she was a child, and Xiao Chen dotes on him very much. His background and abilities are unpredictable. Now that Yunxi can truly devote herself to Xiao Chen, this is the happiness that her daughter has found herself. Guys, Yun is going to the eastern domain to gather information first. When you enter the Kengshuan realm, you can use this object to contact me. After sighing in his heart, Yun Luosheng said to Lu Ruoxian, Tian Xingjian and others. Now 8 or 9 days have passed since the war, and I don't know what the situation of the Wangyu ancient clan is now. He really couldn't worry about Yu Yun. Now that his cultivation has broken through to the 8th level of the Emperor, as long as he is not stupid enough to break into the Wangyu ancient clan. Even if he meets Yu Dishan again, he still has the ability to protect himself. So, Yun Luosheng planned to go to Xuanwang realm first to inquire about the affairs of the Wangyu ancient clan. Never act rashly. Otherwise, once you are captured by the Wangyu ancient clan, the next situation will be even more passive. After hearing Yun Luosheng's words, Lu Ruoxian frowned slightly. Yun Luosheng was not strictly prohibited from acting without authorization, but he was given a few serious instructions in a solemn voice. Yun Luosheng is not Xiao Chen's subordinate. On the contrary, he is Yun Zai's old father and Xiao Chen's father-in-law in name only. They cannot command each other emotionally or rationally. Not to mention, Yun Luosheng is a powerful person in the 8th level of the emperor, and now he still has Yun Shi to worry about, so he should not act too impulsively. Let the other party go to the eastern domain first to inquire about the situation, which will also be of great use to them. Yun Luosheng nodded after hearing this. After giving a jade pendant to Lu Ruoxian and others, he tore the void and left the Xiao family in Luyun City. In the wing room, looking at Yun Shi who was sleeping soundly, Xiao Chen raised his hand and touched his head, with a doting smile on his face. This time, because there is a big gap between Yun Zai's cultivation and his, even though the opponent has the blood of the desolate moon demon cloud rabbit royal family, there is no way to improve his cultivation much. On the contrary, it was Yun Shi. After receiving his nourishment and assistance, his cultivation level was directly promoted from the 2nd level of heaven and human to the 5th level of heaven and human. This speed of cultivation advancement surprised him. Next, I just need to say goodbye to my father and mother, and then we can leave for the eastern domain. Thinking that everything was handled in a similar way, Xiao Chen also made a decision in his heart. No, I seem to have forgotten something. Just when Xiao Chen asked Yun Shi to take a nap and was about to get up and walk out of the room, he suddenly felt as if he had forgotten something. By the way, I forgot about her. Thinking of Zhang Li who was thrown into the system space by him and sealed in the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror. Xiao Chen showed a look of surprise. Immediately afterwards, the soul thought entered the system space, and then submerged into the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror. If you can completely conquer this demon queen Zhang Li. Next, even if he does not have a great emperor cultivation experience card, he will not be afraid of meeting a strong person in the 9th level of the God Lord. 76%. Chapter 366. Do you want to keep this soul thought of mine to keep you company? Inside the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror. Compared to the previous 2 days, this place seemed darker and gloomier. Lilac demonic energy. The small world filled with a radius of 10 miles makes the world in this square mirror particularly depressing. And these demonic energies, they all originate from a woman in the palace who is extremely beautiful and has a very noble temperament. That is Zhang Li, the demon queen of the Northern Territory. After Xiao Chen stimulated her and locked her in a small dark room. A few days before starting, after Zhang Li blew up a lot of clay dolls, the negative emotions in her heart quickly dissipated. But as time passed, Xiao Chen did not appear again. This made Zhang Li feel a little aggrieved and increasingly irritable. Originally, with her state of mind, which she had practiced for thousands of years, she would not be able to bear loneliness and loneliness. After all, she had survived the previous 4,000 years alone. But that's based on Tianyuan Shen Xuanjing is in an ownerless state, and her hope of breaking the seal is to defeat this extreme Dao Emperor weapon. But now, the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror has been repaired and is controlled by a mysterious powerful man. Her hope of breaking the seal now rests in the hands of this one man. And this damn guy. After arousing her curiosity, he locked her in a small dark room. And this dark space is still a terrifying cage. Because 3 days ago, she couldn't help but attack the seal of Tianyuan Shen Xuanjing, and opened a crack in the seal in an instant. Her thoughts spread to the outside world again. But the outside world is still that boundless void space, and the space is more indestructible than she imagined. I can't feel the breath of any living being at all. This means, if Xiao Chen never appears again, even if she breaks the seal of the opening heaven source God's on mirror, she will be trapped and die in this dark space. After thinking of this, Zhang Li became more and more irritable and filled with resentment. If she had never seen the light, she could have endured the darkness. But someone happened to let her see the light, but then the light was extinguished backhand. This is a bit tortuous. It's the 9th day. This dog man who should be killed by 1,000 cuts had better not appear in front of me again, otherwise. Otherwise what? Just as Zhang Li was sitting on the throne, gnashing her teeth, she opened her right hand and then clenched it fiercely, as if she wanted to crush a little kunkan. Before she could finish her words, a voice suddenly resounded through the palace. Xiao Chen's figure appeared strangely. Dog man. Seeing Xiao Chen's appearance, Zhang Li blurted out these 3 words as her eyes focused. This made Xiao Chen's mouth twitch slightly. Your title is quite unique, little bitch. Feeling depressed in his heart, Xiao Chen said very gently. This sentence. Zhang Li's expression froze slightly. Dog man, little bitch. What is this guy trying to say? Is she destined to be suppressed by the other party? Seeing that I was attracted to Senior Yun she was not convinced and went to change into a costume of ancient times. She said that the fabric of this dress was very soft. If you don't believe me, let me touch it and see. You're a guy who annoys people when you don't show up, but you make people popular when you show up. I will give you a greeting gift first. After the words fell, Zhang Li's eyes flashed with a faint light, and then she held Xiao Chen in the air. The hall shook violently. The lines exuded a strange aura, filling the entire palace like a spider web, completely sealing the palace in an instant. This made Xiao Chen slightly stunned, and then he raised an arc. Sealing this hall, do you want to completely keep my soul as your companion? I felt the formations around me, filled with terrifying soul fluctuations. Directly cut off the connection between him and Tianyuan Shen Xuanjing. Xiao Chen couldn't help but marvel in his heart. To be able to condense such a soul formation in just a few days is truly worthy of being the demon queen of the Northern Territory. The person in the mirror is empty and sad. Although you are a bit unpleasant, it would be nice if you could stay in the mirror and accompany me to relieve your fatigue. Certainly, if you are willing to break the seal of the opening heaven source God mysterious mirror, release this book and leave this extreme Tao Emperor weapon, I will remember your kindness. He will return to the Northern Territory after Japan, rebuild the 10,000 demons sect and wipe out his enemies, and then he will come to repay your kindness. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Zhang Li slowly walked up to Xiao Chen, swaying step by step, and spoke softly. She is completely different from the irritable demon queen who was a bitch whenever she spoke. Sealing the hall to trap my soul to death, making me feel personally threatened by you, and then draw a big cake to show your goodwill. You are like this. How can I trust you? Looking at Zhang Li right in front of him, Xiao Chen didn't panic at all, he just looked at her with interest. This method of gathering others is somewhat similar to him. You want me to believe you. Even if you control my life and death, you can still give me my freedom 100 years later. It can even help me break through to the divine realm. You want me to believe you with such a far-fetched promise, why can't you trust me in return? Zhang Li said with a smile upon hearing this. It was completely like treating the other person the way he was treated, as if he was trying to kill Xiao Chen. Seal this hall. Cut off the connection between Xiao Chen and Tianyuan Shen Xuanjing. With this soul alone, the other party is definitely no match for her. Unless Xiao Chen dares to abandon this soul and suffer serious damage to his soul consciousness. She is the one who holds the initiative now. This is also the capital for her to negotiate terms with Xiao Chen. Interesting and courageous. You are obviously in a passive situation, but you dare to make a desperate attempt to break the situation. I am becoming more and more interested in you. As he spoke, Xiao Chen looked at the other party's pretty face and continued to ask in a low voice. If I agree to let you go, what kind of repayment will you give me in the future? What do you want in return? When Zhang Li heard this sentence, there was no trace of joy on her face, but a solemn expression. Don't know why. Seeing Xiao Chen so calm, she felt very uneasy inside. It was clear that she was the one in charge now, but the other party looked indifferent. It seems that this soul is dispensable to Xiao Chen. Or it could be, what other trump cards does the other party have that can break this situation and threaten her? You just called me a dog man, so. What I want most in return is for you to become an obedient little bitch. Xiao Chen raised the corner of his mouth slightly when he heard this, and replied with extremely bold words. As if I don't know. After saying this sentence, this devil queen will be completely angered. You guy, do you really think that I am a fool and have no temper at all, so I don't dare to do anything to you? Really? After Xiao Chen said these words, a cold light flashed in Zhang Li's eyes, and a terrifying demonic aura burst out. The whole hall trembled crazily. I don't want to break up with you, but if you are so ignorant, I can only learn what you are capable of. How dare you let me be your little bitch? While the last sentence echoed, Zhang Li also raised her hand to grab Xiao Chen. But right now, Xiao Chen just raised his hand and lightly snapped his fingers, and a terrifying soul fire also broke out on him. 76%. Chapter 367 The Oath of Heaven, the limit that Zhang Li can accept. All of a sudden, the soul fire was like a frenzy, sweeping towards the surroundings. That kind of terrifying power made Zhang Li's expression change. Boom. As the demonic energy collided with the soul fire, the roar shook the entire mirror world. The entire hall trembled under the impact, and the formation patterns continued to flicker. Zhang Li was forced to take a dozen steps back. Looking at what appeared in front of Xiao Chen, her pupils couldn't help but shrink violently. Extreme Dao Emperor weapon. That's right. At this time, what was floating in front of Xiao Chen was the Eternal Soul Lamp. After all, what he has to face is the Demon Queen of the Northern Territory, a powerful person who can shock the Northern Territory. Xiao Chen didn't dare to be careless. When a soul projection was condensed and entered the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror, it also brought in the Extreme Dao Emperor weapon of the Heavenly Demon Clan. I didn't expect it to come in handy so quickly. You actually have an Extreme Dao Emperor weapon and brought it into the mirror world. Looking at the immortal soul lamp suspended in Xiao Chen's right hand, Zhang Li took a deep breath and tried to calm her violently heaving chest. Not only did he enter the mirror without his true body, but the condensed soul also carried an Extreme Dao Emperor weapon. This guy, to be so cautious. If I didn't have some backup, how could I dare to face you, the Demon Queen? You are indeed a dangerous woman. After hearing Zhang Li's words, Xiao Chen said calmly. Fortunately, he didn't, because Qian, Lu Ruoxian and others all fell in love with him. He thought that every woman in the world would be infatuated with him. Otherwise, we would be in trouble now. I don't think. With just one soul projection, you can unleash the power of this Extreme Dao Emperor weapon. Zhang Li looked at Xiao Chen and said in a faint voice. His eyes kept flickering, as if he was weighing whether to continue or not. It is true that it can only exert part of its power, but it is used to break the blockade of this hall. I think it should be enough. Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this and answered sincerely. As long as he can blast a crack in the seal of the main hall, he can restore his connection with Tianyuan Shen Xuanjing. At that time, the two Extreme Dao Emperor weapons will show their power. Even if his cultivation level is only at the Saint King level, he can still make this Demon Queen pay the price. Kekeki. Just kidding, I just wanted to test your adaptability. Zhang Li's expression changed when she heard this, and then she chuckled. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers to release the surrounding formation blockade. Actually, I was joking just now. How can a noble and honorable woman like you be reduced to a little bitch? Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this. Saying these words, Zhang Li, the Demon Queen, almost went berserk on the spot. But this time, Zhang Li did not dwell on this topic anymore, but stated the conditions she could accept. I can swear by heaven to stay by your side for 100 years. In this 100 years, as long as you don't touch my bottom line, I can solve many troubles for you. But if you insist on making me your slave girl, completely control my life and death and ravage my body, then even if we die together, we won't compromise on you at all. This is my last dignity and bottom line. After saying that, Zhang Li stared at Xiao Chen, and her body became tense at this moment. As a demon queen, have your own dignity and bottom line. If Xiao Chen really refuses to give in, he may sound grand on the surface, but in fact he wants to turn her into a female slave. Then she can only fight to the death. Seeing that I was obsessed with the two sisters, Sister Yunying suddenly became jealous and pulled me into the kitchen, saying that she wanted to show me the big baby and it was too difficult for me. The oath of heaven. Xiao Chen was slightly startled when he heard this. This kind of oath can be more terrifying than swearing with a Taoist heart. If you swear by your own Taoist heart, breaking the oath will at best lead to the collapse of your Taoist heart, making it difficult to progress in cultivation and even breed inner demons. It will not endanger your own life to some extent. But the oath of heaven is different. The way of heaven is the will of heaven and earth, the supreme ruler of the Kanglan world. If you swear by the way of heaven, the oath will be sensed by the will of heaven and earth and engraved in the avenue of cause and effect. Even the powerful great emperor will be obliterated by heaven if he violates his oath. So this world, if you don't want to keep your promise, even a strong emperor would not dare to swear to the way of heaven. Unless the other party, you can avoid the influence of heaven, or you can be so strong that you are not afraid of heaven. Otherwise, breaking the oath will lead to death. If I swear by the law of heaven, I don't have to plant a slave mark on you, but the prerequisite is, I need to know, what is your so-called bottom line? After a moment of silence, Xiao Chen replied with a smile. He had no deep grudge against the demon queen of the Northern Territory. She wants to control the other person's life and death, but she is afraid that after letting the other person out, the Devil Queen will turn her back and refuse to recognize him. It would pose a life threat to him or those around him. If this concern can be resolved with the oath of heaven, it is acceptable not to plant the soul seal of life and death. Asking knowingly, of course, I can't be forced to become your woman. or do something that is degrading to my dignity, such as asking me to wash your feet, warm your bed, nibble on your feet, or wipe your butt. At the end of the speech, Zhongli showed a hint of shame on her face, and her expression became a little aggrieved. Unexpectedly, she, the majestic demon queen of the Northern Territory, would have to compromise one day. After Xiao Chen heard what Zhongli said, he was speechless and froze on the spot. The first sentence above sounds normal. After all, it was a man who saw a woman with extraordinary beauty, strength and status. Everyone wants to turn the other person into their own woman. But what the hell is said next? Even if he was nibbling his feet under the warm blanket, what else could he say about wiping his butt? Does he look like someone with that kind of bad taste? Don't worry, this young master doesn't have that kind of perverted hobby yet. Feeling speechless, Xiao Chen said helplessly. Then he didn't talk nonsense with Zhongli, but continued straight to the point. Start swearing. When the will of heaven is sensed and the oath of heaven takes effect, I will help you recover. Help me recover. Zhongli's eyes froze after hearing Xiao Chen's words. I couldn't help but think of how Xiao Chen helped Yun Luosheng and others break the talent limit a few days ago. Her pretty face couldn't help showing a look of surprise. Her status, even after thousands of years of recovery, it has not completely returned to its peak. Because that battle was so brutal, it left many irreversible wounds in her body. So now her cultivation level can only be restored to the 8th level of the Emperor. If she does not resolve the many hidden injuries hidden in her body, it will be difficult for her to return to the 9th level of the Emperor in her life. Could this guy heal her hidden wounds? With doubts in her heart, Zhongli did not rush to ask, but began to swear to heaven. She swore an oath not to harm Xiao Chen or his relatives and friends. And within the acceptable range, you have to stay by the other party's side to protect him for 100 years. Certainly, Zhongli also didn't forget to add her bottom line. As soon as this oath was finished, not only inside the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror, but also in the sky above the entire Luyun city. Suddenly there was a roar like a thunderbolt from the blue. An invisible energy was locked on Zhongli, and this oath of heaven was also engraved in the world. At this moment, Xiao Chen became less alert. This demon queen of the Northern Territory will finally wear the same pants as him. 76%. Chapter 368. Bah, you scumbag. Come here, let me help you recover. Seeing Zhongli standing there with a complicated face, she seemed to be sighing that from now on, she would be labeled as Xiao Chen. After Xiao Chen put away the immortal soul lamp, he said softly. Now, hearing Xiao Chen's words, Zhongli was also stunned for a moment. Xiao Chen is just a soul projection now. Is it possible that he can help her repair the hidden wounds in her body? Seeing the suspicion on Zhongli's face, Xiao Chen shook his head, walked up to the other party, raised his hand and pointed at the other party. This move shocked Zhongli, who thought Xiao Chen's true colors were revealed. Want to attack her dynamic waves? Do not move. Seeing Zhongli's whole body tense up, she instinctively wanted to retreat, so Xiao Chen also shouted in a low voice. He put his finger on the other person's shoulder. As a burst of white light suddenly shone, a mysterious force sank into Zhongli's body. Before Zhongli could react at all the hidden wounds remaining in her body had recovered. This change caused her pupils to shrink suddenly, and her whole body froze on the spot. Actually repaired all her hidden wounds in an instant. And it's not the real body coming, it's just a soul shadow. How can this be? It doesn't have to be so shocking. Although my master's cultivation is not as good as yours for the time being. But his abilities in some aspects are far beyond your imagination. Seeing Zhongli's shocked look, Xiao Chen retracted his arm and said calmly. But after Zhongli heard this, her pretty face suddenly turned slightly red. I don't know which aspect to associate it with. All the hidden wounds in your body have been recovered. After a while, your cultivation level will be restored to the 9th level of the Emperor. Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go outside for some air? Xiao Chen didn't care what he was thinking, but asked very straightforwardly. How? Do you still want to hide your beauty in the mirror? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Zhongli chuckled. A charming smile appeared on his face. Now not only can I walk out of this ghost place, but all the hidden wounds in my body have been repaired. This put her in a good mood. Although I will not force you to be a slave or a maid, if you take the initiative to seduce me in the future, I will not guarantee that you will not take the bait. Seeing Zhongli's charming posture, Xiao Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly and spoke in an aggressive voice. Kekeki, aren't you afraid that your bunch of confidants outside are jealous? Perhaps due to the influence of his actions just now, Zhongli didn't resent Xiao Chen's teasing at this time. Instead, he replied with a smile. My master's fighting power is so fierce that they can't resist it. If a powerful sister joins me, I think they would be eager to do so. Xiao Chen chuckled upon hearing this. His eyes swept over Zhongli's curvy body, and an intriguing smile appeared on his face. This made Zhongli feel hot all over. It felt like Xiao Chen had stripped her naked, and a blush appeared on her pretty face. This sentence, is it hinting that she is very powerful and durable? What? Bah, men are indeed virtuous. Thinking of this, Zhongli said something angrily, adjusting her mood and slowly returning to a calm state. Should we go out? Even Zhongli herself was surprised by the gesture she showed just now. It seemed that Xiao Chen agreed with her choice and helped her repair the hidden wounds. She also had some feelings for this man. She doesn't even resent the other person teasing her. This is a very dangerous sign. Think of this. Zhongli's heart trembled slightly. She quickly warned herself that she had just made an oath to prevent Xiao Chen from having any thoughts about her. If she develops a strong liking for Xiao Chen soon, she may even be tempted to turn against him. This is a bit of a slap in the face. Xiao Chen didn't say anything when he heard this, he just lightly snapped his fingers. The Tianyuan divine profound realm suddenly shook. The seal in the void that had trapped Zhongli for thousands of years dissipated on its own at this moment. You're free. Of course, if you still miss this, you can come back later. Looking at the formation seal dissipating in the void, Xiao Chen turned his head and said with a faint smile to Zhongli. Would you miss a place that has trapped you for more than 4,000 years? After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Zhongli replied complicatedly. She was extremely familiar with every inch of this place, but she had no nostalgia for it. You hate this place because it has trapped you for more than 4,000 years. But if it is given a special meaning, it may also be missed in your heart. Xiao Chen smiled slightly when he heard this and said something meaningful. What special meaning? Zhongli turned her head in surprise, not knowing what special significance this ghost place had. This is the place where you and I first met. When Xiao Chen heard this, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly, and he spoke in a low voice. This sentence. Zhongli was stunned at first. Immediately afterwards, his breathing became a little rapid, a blush appeared on his pretty face, and then he became a little angry. Obviously she didn't expect Xiao Chen to flirt with her. Bah, you scumbag. After spitting, Zhongli tore through the void and left here directly. This young master is a scumbag to begin with. Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this, and then murmured something softly. The soul projection dissipates and the consciousness returns to the original sea of consciousness. For Zhongli, the Devil Queen. If nothing else happens, the other party will be his woman in the future, it's just a matter of time. Xiao Chen is still very confident about this. After showing me the big baby, Yunying changed her clothes and put on contact lenses. She said she liked gun dancing and rod dancing very much, and asked me if I could teach her how to do it. How should I teach her? In the wing room, Yunxi slowly woke up from her drowsiness, recalling all the scenes of her coma, her face instantly turned red. No wonder Sister Kyan and the others are all rushing to have sex. It turns out that the ups and downs are so wonderful, just once can make her unforgettable for the rest of her life. Master. After suppressing the temptation in her heart, Yunxi glanced around the room and saw Xiao Chen sitting cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed. There was a red gold mirror suspended in front of him. It looks very strange. And in her soft cry, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes, which made Yun's eyes brighten. Then he wanted to get up and take the white rabbit into Xiao Chen's arms. But just then, as the space in the wing was distorted, another figure also appeared. This startled Yunxi, and she almost bumped into this person. Is it possible that, before you entered the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror, you did something shady in this wing? Seeing that the room was a little messy, Yunxi was still naked. There is also a special smell lingering in the air. This made Zhongli's expression suddenly change, and she looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief. As soon as she came out, she felt the breath of spring's revival. This guy did it on purpose. And the little girl in front of me still has a trace of childishness on her face, and she doesn't look very old at first glance. Unexpectedly, this guy succeeded. What a disaster, you scumbag. Control your breath, you're scaring my woman. Hearing Zhongli's words, Xiao Chen's expression remained unchanged and he just said lightly. While talking, he ducked in front of Yunxi and hugged him lovingly. This made Yunxi look moved, but made Zhongli's pretty face twitch. Scumbag. Remembering that Xiao Chen had flirted with her in the mirror world just now, Zhongli gritted her teeth and said these two words, then tore through the void and left the wing. 76%. Chapter 369. After all, they were the first to surrender to me. How could they be allowed to be ravaged and conquered by others? What a terrible smell. That demon queen Zhongli broke the seal and came out. Almost at the moment Zhongli appeared, the expressions of Lu Ruoxian, Qian and others in the courtyard also changed. Next moment, Lu Ruoxian, Qian and others wanted to rush into the side room. But just as they started to move, there were ripples in the void in the courtyard. Zhongli's graceful and luxurious figure also appeared in this courtyard. All eyes are on each other. Zhongli suddenly froze on the spot. There are so many beauties gathered in this courtyard, each one of them can be called supreme grade. There are several more among them. Compared to her, the demon queen, she was not inferior in appearance or temperament. This surprised Zhongli. The bunch of beauties in front of me are all that guy's women, right? Zhongli, the demon queen of the Northern Territory. When the atmosphere suddenly became awkward, Lu Ruoxian looked at Zhongli and asked in a serious voice. This was an Emperor realm expert who was even stronger than her. Now that the other party can appear here, has he been conquered by Xiao Chen? You daughter all that guy's women. After Lu Ruoxian spoke, Zhongli also looked solemn and spoke in a low voice. Although the group of women in front of her are not as strong as her in cultivation. But with everyone standing together, it actually gave her a sense of oppression. Especially this woman wearing silver-green mysterious clothes made her feel an unprecedented pressure. This kind of pressure, it's not the sense of oppression that comes from cultivation, but the ethereal and noble temperament. Crunch. Just when the girls were facing each other, the atmosphere became a little tense. With a crunching sound, Xiao Chen and Yunxi also walked out together. Are they all here? Seeing Lu Ruoxian, Qian and others standing in a pile, each of them stared at Zhongli with careful eyes. Xiao Chen coughed dryly and explained. Don't be nervous. I have reached some kind of agreement with Zhongli. She will stay by my side to protect the Tao for 100 years from now on. So from now on, she can be considered one of our own. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, Lu Ruoxian, Liang Bing and others couldn't help but have a strange look on their faces. Another 100 years of protecting the Tao. Isn't this similar to their experience? I'm afraid it won't be long before this demon queen of the Northern Territory becomes a protector. I had just come out of Sister Yunying's place when I saw Senior Sister Yunyin had changed into pajamas and said that she had a lot to talk about. Could she come in and sit down? My name is Lu Ruoxian, welcome to join. After finishing his thoughts, Lu Ruoxian showed a kind smile and took the lead in introducing himself to Zhongli. And after Lu Ruoxian spoke, Qian and others also showed a smile and said hello to Zhongli. I am not this guy's woman. Don't get me wrong. Seeing the strange looks from Lu Ruoxian and others, Zhongli felt uncomfortable and quickly explained. But this doesn't seem to work. Lu Ruoxian, Qian and others all showed meaningful smiles and said nothing more at this moment. It's just that she is not Xiao Chen's woman now. As time goes by, it will get better slowly. They have a deep understanding of this, and all of them have been through it before. Even the demon queen of the Northern Territory would never be surprised. As they said hello one by one, the group soon started chatting. I don't know if it's because I haven't seen the same kind for a long time, or because of some unknown reason. Zhongli, a woman who was originally cold and arrogant, actually put down her posture and chatted with the girls about the past. When she was excited, she even uttered a few curse words. This made Liang Bing suddenly feel like he had found a soulmate. After all, one is the queen of the abyss world, and the other is the demon queen who is famous in the Northern Territory. They both practice demonic techniques. It's just that one has a bloodline inheritance, and the other has a demonic physique, but other aspects are very similar. After seeing this, Xiao Chen's lips curved up. There are many beauties and the atmosphere is harmonious. This was something that many men couldn't do, but I didn't expect it to be so easy for him. Next, after saying goodbye to my father and mother, I can set off for the eastern domain. When the thoughts in his mind fell, Xiao Chen planned to leave the inner courtyard and go to the courtyard where his father was. But that's it. A jade pendant around his waist suddenly lit up, and a message entered his mind. This made his eyes condense slightly and his breath became a little cold. Husband, what happened? Feeling the change in Xiao Chen's aura, the expressions of Lu Ruoxian and others suddenly changed. Everyone looked over. It's not a big deal, it's just that the Xingqian pavilion is in trouble. Xiao Chen waved his hand when he heard this, and spoke calmly. The 18th prince of the Great Principal Dynasty in the Profound Heaven Realm was sent to the southern part of the Profound Heaven Realm for training. The Great Principal Emperor asked him to conquer all supreme-level forces in the south in the shortest possible time. Now that the four major forces on the southern edge, the Ming family has been dissolved in name only, the Heavenly Sword sect leader was the first to surrender. Only Taiyan Gate and Xingqian Pavilion have not yet been conquered. Now the 18th prince of the Great Principal Dynasty has set Xingqian Pavilion as the next hunting target. They can only come here to ask for my opinion. Are you going to surrender, or are you going to fight to the end? After Lu Ruoxian finished speaking, Xiao Chen almost told the cause and effect in a brief introduction. Great Principal Imperial Dynasty. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Lu Ruoxian's eyes narrowed slightly. This is one of the great emperor-level forces in Profound Heaven. Although it is not as good as the terrifying emperor-level forces like the Wangyu ancient clan, it is not easy to mess with among the great emperor-level forces in the Profound Heaven realm. It is said that the most powerful ancestor of the royal family, the Great Principal, seems to have reached the peak of the 7th level of the emperor. It is not known whether he has made further progress in recent years. If the cultivation level breaks through again, it will be the 8th level of the emperor. Look across the eastern domain. He is also an extremely powerful top expert. Husband, do you want to go over now and help Xingqian Pavilion support the show? When the thought came to an end, Lu Ruoxian looked at Xiao Chen and asked softly. After all, they were the first to surrender to me. How could they be allowed to be ravaged and conquered by others? Xiao Chen nodded when he heard this and replied calmly. Beating a dog depends on the owner. Even if he didn't take Xingqian Pavilion very seriously, he couldn't let others poach his little brother away. Isn't this a slap in the face? Next in Eastern Domain, unless it is absolutely necessary, don't take action in front of others. After the thought came to an end, Xiao Chen gave Lu Ruoxian some advice. Lu Ruoxian is the most powerful Lu god in the Eastern Domain, and he will be easily recognized by others as soon as he makes a move. In order to avoid attracting the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone, it is always good to be cautious. Lu Ruoxian nodded when he heard this and understood what Xiao Chen meant. But she doesn't like to be pushy either. As long as their group is not in danger, she will usually not be the first to expose them. Get ready, we are going to Eastern Domain. After telling Lu Ruoxian, Xiao Chen said to Kaiyan and others. Then he informed Xiaozan and Mu Nianyan through sound transmission. Then, the level of the double-headed magic dragon chariot was forcibly upgraded to the low-grade Emperor Monarch level. Let the transmission range of the space array be enough to cover the southern part of Profound Heaven. After doing all this, after a message was sent to Xingqian Pavilion, the group of people also disappeared in the distortion of space. 77%. Chapter 370 is the background behind the other party strong enough to not be afraid of the Great Principal Empire. Time goes back to a quarter of an hour ago. In the southern part of Profound Heaven, inside the Star Pavilion. A heavy atmosphere filled the entire hall. Luo Chenyi and many elders of Xingqian Pavilion almost frowned. The Great Principal Empire wants to incorporate the southern part of Profound Heaven, and our four supreme forces will bear the brunt. Now the Ming family has completely disappeared in name only because of the young master. The only ones left that can cause obstacles are our Star Pavilion, Taiyan Gate and Heavenly Sword Sect. But those guys from Heavenly Sword Sect completely forgot about the existence of the young master and directly transferred to the command of the 18th prince. It seems that the soul mark left by the powerful Heavenly Demon clan was broken with the help of the 18th prince's Emperor Protector. So there are two roads before us now. One is the same as the Heavenly Sword Sect, which was transferred to the 18th prince. But by doing this, we have completely betrayed Mr. Xiao, and it is equivalent to offending the Lu Shen behind him. If the other party gets angry and pursues the case, the Great Principal Empire may not necessarily protect us, but it will allow us to survive the crisis for the time being. The other thing is, continue to follow young Master Xiao and fight to the death with the Great Principal Emperor. This path is fraught with uncertainty. If Mr. Xiao is willing to protect us and has enough strength, he can compete with the Great Principal Empire. Only we, Xingqian Pavilion, can survive this crisis. But if the other party is unwilling to protect us, or is not capable enough to compete with the Great Principal Empire, our Star Pavilion will also lose myriad tribulations. Both paths are a bet, so this Pavilion Master wants to hear your opinions. In a heavy atmosphere, Luo Chenyi glanced at everyone present, and his low voice echoed in the hall. This caused all the elders present to fall into silence. No matter which of the two roads in front of you. If you make one wrong step, the consequences will be disastrous. After all, neither Xiao Chen's side nor the great principal dynasty can compete with Xingqian Pavilion. Offending anyone would be a devastating blow to Xingqian Pavilion. What they need to measure now is which of the two sides is more powerful, so that they can find a way out for Xingqian Pavilion. Since the pavilion master has asked this, then I will analyze it objectively. After Luo Chenyi finished speaking, the great elder of Xingqian Pavilion, Ma Wenlong, spoke hoarsely at this moment. What we know so far is that we only know how many powerful people surround Mr. Xiao. One of them is Lu Shen, who is famous in the eastern domain, but currently he seems to be only at the supreme realm. The other one is a strong man from the heavenly demon clan. Judging from his words and deeds that day, it seems that he is also a strong emperor. But for some reason, he wasn't at his peak either. As for the last two women, each of them looks extraordinary, but they are only at the supreme level. And the great principal empire. This is one of the great emperor-level forces in the profound heaven realm. Its comprehensive power and background are simply unfathomable. The number of powerful emperor-level people known to the world has reached 7 fingers. The ancestor of the great principal royal family is even more powerful at the 7th level of the emperor. As he spoke, Ma Wenlong glanced at Luo Chenyi and others, and continued with a heavy voice. Judging from these objective factors, Heavenly Sword Sect would choose to betray and surrender, which is also a wise move. After all, the strength of the two sides is too disparate. Even though young Master Xiao has the famous Lu Shen in the eastern domain as his support, his cultivation level is not even at the level of the emperor. As for the strong man from the Soul clan who is suspected of being an emperor, in my opinion, he is not strong enough to compete with the great principal emperor. Not to mention, both of these identities are somewhat sensitive and will cause big trouble if exposed. So, if no miracle happens, or we underestimate Mr. Xiao's background, this game will eventually favor the great principal empire. As these words fell, the hall also fell into dead silence. You can even hear heavy breathing. Have to say, Ma Wenlong's analysis is indeed very objective. Judging from all the information they currently have, Xiao Chen's side is indeed inferior to the great principal dynasty. The wisest thing for them to do is to choose to surrender to the great principal empire. If you can convince that 18th prince, please ask the powerful emperor to break the soul seal for them. A group of them. You can completely get rid of Xiao Chen's control, but you will be controlled by the great principal empire in the future. It's equivalent to jumping from one pit to another, but at least it's a little better than hitting an egg against a rock. After sharing their heartfelt grievances, an hour had passed. Senior sister Yun Yun said that she must come here more often in the future, otherwise she would not have anyone to talk to and she would feel so lonely. You also think the wisest thing for Xingqian Pavilion to do is to surrender to the great principal empire. In silence, Luo Chenyi looked at the other elders and asked in a low voice. However, none of the other elders answered, and they all seemed to acquiesce to this choice. After all, he who knows the current affairs is a hero. Xiao Chen originally killed 2 of their elders, but Xingqian Pavilion was forced to have no choice but to finally surrender to Xiao Chen. Now that a more powerful existence has appeared, they have no choice but to save their lives. For some reason, this pavilion master always feels that Mr. Xiao is not as simple as what we see. When everyone was silent, Luo Chenyi sighed and said. This caused the expressions of the other elders to change, and they all raised their heads in surprise. What the pavilion master means is, we want to choose to side with young Master Xiao and fight to the death with the great principal emperor. This is a life and death decision. If you make one wrong move, there will be no star pavilion in the world. There is no room for emotion. Don't forget, Mr. Xiao once helped us improve our talents with just a few moves. This is a miracle that even the powerful emperor realm can hardly accomplish. Seeing the surprised expressions on several people's faces, Luo Chenyi said in a low voice. These words made the elders present tremble slightly. Although we were forced to surrender to Mr. Xiao also gave us a blessing. With emotion and reason, we can't be too ungrateful. As he said that, Luo Chenyi took out a jade pendant, which was the sound transmission jade pendant given to him by Xiao Chen, so that the two parties could contact him if they had any questions. Now this thing comes in handy. First report this matter to young Master Xiao. If he has the confidence to come to Xingqian Pavilion, we at Xingqian Pavilion will stand by young Master Xiao. If Mr. Xiao is afraid of the great principal empire and dare not come to Xingshan Pavilion to suppress the situation, there is nothing wrong with us choosing to surrender. As these words fell, Luo Chenyi raised his hand and pointed at the jade pendant, passing on the whole story. Other elders around, seeing what Luo Chenyi did, he didn't say anything at this time. They all suffered from Xiao Chen. Although it is not to the point of following him to the death, he will feel deeply guilty if he wants to surrender to others. So let's leave this matter to Xiao Chen to decide. After this thought fell, Luo Chenyi and his party were sitting in the main hall, all staring at the messenger jade pendant. Finally, after a while, the messenger jade pendant flashed again, and a message was transmitted. My master will be here shortly. Not too many words, just a simple sentence. But he revealed an extremely powerful confidence and courage, which shocked Luo Chenyi and the elders present. This young Master Xiao, after learning about the great principal imperial dynasty, actually came to Xingshan Pavilion in person. Could it be that the background behind the other party is already strong enough to not be afraid of the great principal empire? 77%. Chapter 371. This prince would like to know, what is the reason for your refusal? Get ready for Mr. Xiao's arrival. After a moment of silence, Luo Chenyi took out a space array disc that Xiao Chen gave him some time ago. Next, with the arrival of Xiao Chen, things are a foregone conclusion. They can only stand with Xiao Chen. I hope this choice will not be a disaster. Pavilion Master, something serious has happened. There is a flood dragon chariot, leading several profound arcs, approaching the Star Pavilion. Just when the elders had complicated looks on their faces and were about to say something, a voice came from outside the hall. The expressions of Luo Chenyi and others changed. Flood dragon chariot, could it be the 18th prince of the great principal dynasty? At the same time as the thought fell, Luo Chenyi and several elders disappeared into the hall. Next moment, several people appeared high in the sky above the Star Pavilion, looking solemnly towards the void in the southeast. In sight, a red cloud rose in the distant void, and a roar resounded throughout the world. The one-horned flood dragon, surrounded by purple-red flames at both ends, rushed out of the red clouds dragging a chariot palace. Several mysterious ships followed behind. There are many powerful people standing on each profound arc. The terrifying pressure swept across the world. This caused the void in the sky to explode like pieces of paper after the chariot and the mysterious arc flew past. Heavenly Fire Purple Flame Jiao. As expected, he is the 18th prince of the great principal dynasty. Looking at the approaching flood dragon chariot, Luo Chenyi and others' expressions suddenly darkened. Xiao Chen will arrive soon. But at this juncture, the prince of the great principal dynasty also arrived. If these two collide, something big will happen. While the thought falls, the impressive flood dragon chariot had already rushed to the mountain gate of Xingshan Pavilion. Followed by a roar, hovering thousands of feet away from Luo Chenyi and others, a cold voice also echoed between heaven and earth. The 18th prince of the great principal has arrived. Why don't the people from Xingshan Pavilion quickly come out and kneel to greet him? After this voice fell, several mysterious arcs were hovering on the left and right sides of the flood dragon chariot in the rear, and figures stood on the deck of the mysterious arcs looking down at the Star Pavilion. Among them were the bodyguards surrounding the 18th prince, as well as the Heavenly Sword sect who had surrendered to the great principal dynasty. When I came out of Senior Yun Yun's room, I saw Senior Yun Shi blocking the door of the living room. She looked a little drunk. She even asked me to drink 2 drinks with her. Who can bear this? What is coming will always come, so be ready to face it. Looking at the behemoths in the void, Luo Chenyi took a deep breath to calm down and gave instructions to the elders around him. Then his body flew high into the sky and appeared 100 feet away from the chariot. Luo Chenyi, the master of Xingshan Pavilion, and the elders of Xingshan Pavilion, respectfully welcomed the arrival of the 18th prince. As the words echoed, Luo Chenyi took several elders and saluted the flood dragon chariot. They still don't know the specific situation of Xiao Chen, but they don't dare to offend this prince to death. So some etiquette must be done. Luo Chenyi, the master of Xingshan Pavilion. As Luo Chenyi's words echoed, the man in the python robe on the flood dragon chariot also opened his eyes at this moment. Then he stood up and walked to the carriage stand, looking down at Luo Chenyi and others with indifferent eyes. This person, it is Luo Chenfeng, the 18th prince of the great principal dynasty. A monster who has cultivated to the 9th level of Saint King before he is 100 years old is only one step away from entering the supreme level. Looking at the entire profound heaven realm, among the geniuses under the age of 100, he is definitely the top. This prince is here today just to give you an announcement. The southern part of profound heaven has always been in chaos, and now the great principal empire intends to take over this area. As the major forces in the southern part of profound heaven, your star pavilion has the following two options. One is to surrender to the great principal emperor and swear by the oath of heaven. From now on, I swear to follow my prince to the death, and I will never follow another master for eternity. The other is to reject this prince. From now on, there will be no star pavilion in the world. As he spoke, Luo Chenfeng put his hands on his back and continued in an indifferent voice. I will give you 3 breaths of time to think about it. After the 3 breaths, if I don't answer you, it will be a disguised rejection. When the time comes, don't blame me for being ruthless. After saying that, Luo Chenfeng also closed his eyes and stood quietly on the chariot. If nothing unexpected happens, the people of Xingqian Pavilion will kneel down and swear allegiance in the next breath. This is his confidence as the 18th prince of the great principal empire, and it is also the reaction that many supreme-level forces should have when facing the great principal empire. I'm sorry, our Xingqian Pavilion has surrendered to other adults. Please forgive Luo for not being able to agree to this request. Just when Luo Chenfeng was full of confidence, Luo Chenyi's answer was like a slap falling, slapping him hard on the face. Luo Chenfeng's expression suddenly froze, and his eyes that were originally closed suddenly opened. What did you say? As the sounds of these words echoed in the world, Luo Chenfeng's body was filled with terrifying murderous intent. And the personal guards on his left and right all erupted with overwhelming evil aura. The terrifying momentum was like an overwhelming mountain, pouring down towards Luo Chenyi and others, causing the expressions of several elders to change drastically. They didn't expect it either. Luo Chenyi would answer so simply. That Mr. Xiao hasn't really arrived yet, and now he has opened his mouth to block all escape routes. What if that Mr. Xiao suddenly changes his mind and never comes again? Xingqian Pavilion cannot bear the anger of this 18th prince. It's interesting that a supreme-level force dares to refuse the great principal's admission. This prince would like to know, what is the reason for your refusal? When the atmosphere became tense, Luo Chenfeng had a sneer on his face and stared at Luo Chenyi with interest. Is this Mr. Xiao whom your group surrendered to when they were in the eastern wasteland? As this sentence fell, the expressions of Luo Chenyi and others changed, and they all looked at the other mysterious ark. And standing on top of this profound ark is the Heavenly Sword sect master and several senior officials. Obviously didn't expect those elders of Heavenly Sword sect would betray young Master Xiao. On that day, after Xiao Chen improved their talents, all those people were so grateful that they knelt down in front of Xiao Chen. Unexpectedly, information about Xiao Chen was revealed now. You don't have to be so shocked, in front of absolute strength. Even if you don't want to say some things, this prince can pry them out of your mouth. Seeing the shocked faces of Luo Chenyi and others, Luo Chenfeng couldn't help but sneered. He descended on the Heavenly Sword sect 2 days ago. A few of them dared to speak out against him, and after being punished, they dared to say that there was someone behind them. This made him a little curious, so he used some special means to forcefully open the mouths of these people. Luo Chenfeng not only knew about Xiao Chen, but also knew about Lu Shen, a powerful man with a well-known reputation in the eastern domain. Not only did he not die, he was still hiding in the eastern wasteland. This was an unexpected surprise. After he has completely conquered these major forces, he will then enter the eastern wasteland to meet Mr. Xiao, and even contact his father to hunt for the Lu Shen. After all, this is a 10,000-year-old willow tree, a rare plant spirit. After hearing these words, Luo Chenyi and others' expressions became extremely heavy. It seems that a big battle is inevitable. I just hope that Mr. Xiao can arrive soon. 3 breaths have passed. Since you haven't surrendered, then, this prince should bloodbath the Star Pavilion. When Luo Chenyi and others were feeling heavy, Luo Chenfeng said something indifferently and waved to the many powerful men behind him. 77%. Chapter 372 Ha ha ha. Let this prince kowtow to apologize and plant a slave mark to become your dog. Boom. When these words fell, several powerful men stepped out of the surrounding mysterious arcs, and murderous intent swept through the world with an explosion of momentum. The dozen or so generals headed by him are all at the supreme level. And behind them, there are hundreds of Saint Kings. This is the personal guard owned by the 18th prince. Each one of them is a strong person he has collected or trained from all over the profound heaven realm. It is also what he will use to compete with other princes for the position of prince in the future. Except for this personal guard. Heavenly Sword sect leader Wan Jianming, several other elders, and 20 or 30 Saint King experts. Each and every one of them stepped out of the mysterious arc, and their sword energy swept across the world with coercion. Damn it! Activate the mountain protection formation and defend until the young master. Looking at the terrifying lineup in front of him, Luo Chenyi shouted as his expression changed drastically. But before he finished speaking, the space formation disc was stuffed in his arms. Suddenly there was a buzzing sound. Then, a beam of light flew out of his arms and shot into the sky. A roar suddenly erupted in the void, and the space exploded. What's the situation? Seeing this scene in front of them, Luo Chenfeng and many strong men couldn't help but change their expressions. Luo Chenyi and the elders of Xingqian Pavilion all had excited expressions on their faces. The prince is coming. Roar. When the words of Luo Chenyi and others came out, a dragon roar exploded in the void. A magnificent chariot palace also rushed out of the broken void. It instantly attracted everyone's attention. Two-headed dragon. Looking at the behemoth burning with black flames in front of him, Luo Chenfeng's expression changed slightly, with a look of shock on his face. This big guy in front of me. Although his cultivation fluctuates only at the 9th level of Saint King, he looks like a real dragon. Not a flood dragon, not a hybrid dragon. It seems to be a real dragon. Even he, the prince, no, not even his father, or even the ancestor of the royal family dared to use a real dragon as a cart slave. This is a slap in the face to true dragon race. This guy who suddenly appeared in front of me dared to use true dragon race as his slave. No, this is Dewey. The chariot behind the palace has reached the imperial level. Before he could recover from the shock of the two-headed dragon, Luo Chenfeng saw the chariot behind the palace. The pupils couldn't help but shrink violently, and a look of shock appeared on his face. This terrible sense of oppression is absolutely unmistakable. The quality of the chariot palace in front of you definitely reaches the monarch level. Looking at the entire great principal empire, only his father and the ancestors of the royal family can have a chariot palace at the monarch level. As for other emperor-level experts, they only have supreme-level palaces. Because if you want to build an emperor-monarch-level chariot palace, the materials consumed are enough to build several emperor weapons. Even the powerful emperor level cannot afford such a squandering. When Luo Chenfeng looked horrified. After the double-headed magic dragon chariot circled in the void, it also hovered steadily in front of Luo Chenyi and others. Seeing my reluctance, senior sister Yun Shi suddenly said, "Boss, you don't want to let your wife know about what happened tonight, right?" I burst into tears on the spot. Who is the boss? It's quite lively here. He glanced at the void and saw that the two sides were at war with each other, and there was already a tendency to take action. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. Let us meet Mr. Xiao. After Luo Chenyi and others came to their senses, they came to Xiao Chen's chariot one by one. He saluted Xiao Chen. With their eyes as supreme powerhouses, they can naturally see that the quality of this chariot palace has reached the monarch level. And some time ago in Dongwang, this chariot palace is only the supreme level. In less than a month, this palace has undergone a transformation. Although it is not clear how Xiao Chen did it, Xiao Chen's extraordinary ability can also be seen from the side. Maybe the other person. It can really compete with the great principal empire. So you are that Mr. Xiao. After seeing the actions of Luo Chenyi and others, Luo Chenfeng also made a sound of surprise at this time. His eyes began to look at Xiao Chen and his group. When he saw Lu Ruoxian, Zhang Li and others next to him, his pupils couldn't help but shrink, and there was a roar in his mind. These women, each one is more amazing than the other. Each one of them is a rare supreme grade in the world, and they are not inferior to the concubines in his chariot. Wrong. Although in terms of appearance and figure, some of his concubines can match it. But there are a few women among them who have the aura of being in a position of superiority. He is simply incomparable to these women. That one. Could he be the famous Lu Shen from the Eastern Domain? The first time I saw Lu Ruoxian, Luo Chenfeng remembered that he had seen a copy of the portrait of Lu Shen in his father's study, and he couldn't help showing a look of shock on his face. This empress who was famous in the Eastern Domain did not fall in that battle. Now that it is still appearing in front of him, this kind of spiritual impact is so huge. Is he the 18th prince of the great principal dynasty? While Luo Chenfeng was looking at Xiao Chen and others with a surprised expression, Xiao Chen glanced at these people indifferently and focused on Luo Chenyi and others. To the young master, he is indeed the 18th prince, and he has ordered us to surrender. After hearing Xiao Chen's question, Luo Chenyi said in a low voice. Next, leave it to me. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this, and roughly guessed what happened just now. After saying something, he looked at Luo Chenfeng and others. You just wanted to destroy Xingqian Pavilion. As the cold words echoed in the void, a cold air locked onto Luo Chenfeng. This made Luo Chenfeng's expression change. You can own a chariot, and palace at the monarch level. I wonder who the emperor's son is from. When Luo Chenfeng heard this, he did not answer Xiao Chen's question. Instead, he asked a question in a solemn voice. It doesn't matter who I am, what matters is how you should bear my anger. Xiao Chen smiled indifferently when he heard this. He didn't answer Luo Chenyi's question, but spoke in a solemn voice. I will give you two choices. One is to kneel down and kowtow to apologize, and let me plant the slave mark. You still have a chance to be a dog. The other one is, after you rejected the first choice, I will erase you from the world. Two options. It is almost the same as what Luo Chenfeng asked Luo Chenyi and others just now. It's just that Xiao Chen said to be more domineering. After saying these words, Luo Chenfeng was slightly stunned, and then he became filled with overwhelming anger. Ha 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 ha, let this prince kowtow to apologize and plant a slave mark to become your dog. Even the emperor of the ancient clan would not dare to speak like this to this prince. How dare you say such a thing? In anger and laughter, Luo Chenfeng showed a ferocious look on his face, and his whole body was full of murderous intent. Since you are so ignorant, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Kill. Finished. Luo Chenfeng issued a killing order to many supreme powerhouses. Great Principal Imperial Dynasty. Although it has not yet reached the level of the ancient clan forces, it is still the leader among the emperor-level forces. So spell the background. Except for those ancient tribes, he has never been afraid of anyone. He didn't believe it. Which ancient clan would the heir to this guy who is crazier than him be? 77%. Chapter 373 Misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Protect the young master. Seeing strong men on the left and right of Luo Chenfeng stepping out of the air, he was about to use divine ability to kill them all. Luo Chenyi took the lead and stood in front of Xiao Chen, shouting to the elders in a low voice. Xiao Chen can repair other people's injuries in an instant. So just protect Xiao Chen. Without the help of powerful men from the Emperor realm, they were not without the ability to fight against this group of people. Jia, you dare to attack Lord Demon Lord, you guys are so brave. Just when a group of strong men's cultivation broke out, a burst of strange laughter suddenly sounded. A terrifying imperial power, like a tsunami sweeping across the sky and earth, it capsized towards a group of supreme warriors. This led to Wang Jianming and many heavenly sword sect experts, as well as the generals of the personal guards under the 18th prince. Everyone couldn't help but their expressions changed drastically, with a look of horror on their faces. Emperor! Such terrifying pressure has far surpassed that of Supreme. The young master named Xiao in front of him actually had a powerful emperor beside him. And when everyone was shocked, while Tian Xie was speaking, he had already appeared on the head of the two-headed demon dragon puppet. Then without any nonsense, he raised his hand and slapped everyone. In an instant, the sky above Xingqian Pavilion was rolling. A terrifying giant hand, as if a demon was about to overthrow the world, slammed down on Luo Chenfeng and others. Block him. Seeing that giant hand crushing down, the leader of the guards let out a roar at this moment. One after another divine ability killing moves soared into the sky, followed by the giant demon hand in an instant. Colliding together violently. Boom. Accompanied by the roaring explosion, the attacks of more than 20 supreme warriors were unable to shake this giant hand. One after another divine ability was ruthlessly crushed and exploded, and the terrifying impact collapsed the void within a radius of 10 feet. Many strong men were in shock and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Is this the terror of a strong person in the Emperor realm? Even if more than 20 Supreme-level experts join forces, plus more than 100 Saint King-level experts, they still can't defeat the opponent's divine ability move. The difference in realm is so terrifying. A strong man at the third level of the Emperor dares to take action against the 18th prince. Just when that giant hand was about to slap Flood Dragon's chariot. As an old voice echoed across the heaven and earth, another even more terrifying imperial power erupted into the sky. Suddenly a face condensed in the sky above the Flood Dragon chariot, and then it collided hard with the giant hand. Space collapsed again. The devastating impact swept across like a doomsday storm. But whether it was around Luo Chenfeng and others, or around Xiao Chen and his group, there was a protective light curtain condensed out. Only a group of people can survive this impact unharmed. And below, many elders and disciples in Xingqian Pavilion looked into the void in horror. Obviously something doesn't make sense. Why did such a terrifying impact suddenly erupt in the void in front of the Xingqian Pavilion mountain gate? After being tortured all night, I wanted to sneak back to the villa, but I saw my classmate Medusa blocking the door and giving me a death stare. I wanted to confess again. There is actually a powerful emperor realm hidden in this chariot. Seeing this terrifying collision, Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. The 18th prince of an imperial dynasty. There is actually a powerful emperor realm guarding him, which only shows that the great principal emperor attaches great importance to this prince. Or it could be, this prince has some kind of connection with this emperor. Otherwise, with the status of a prince alone, it would be impossible for a powerful person at the emperor level to protect him. And when Xiao Chen's thoughts fell, in the raging of the endless storm, an old man also appeared in front of the flood dragon chariot, exuding an aura that was even more terrifying than Tianxi. The 4th level of the emperor. He is actually not an ordinary emperor realm expert. Even within the emperor realm he is still considered to be a mid-range person. This surprised Xiao Chen, but there was no trace of panic on his face. He was just a 4th level emperor, and it was completely impossible to protect people in front of him. Jia, when did a hot chicken at the 4th level of the emperor dare to be rampant in front of me? Hearing the old man's words, Tianxi also let out a strange smile. Although his cultivation level, he only returned to the 3rd level of the emperor, but if it matches this body and the special nature of his soul, even against a strong person in the 4th level of God Lord, he is absolutely sure that he can severely injure him. After all, he was once a strong man in the 7th level of the emperor, and he was only one step away from stepping into the 8th level of the emperor. The means at his disposal are beyond the reach of ordinary emperor level experts. After saying that, Tian Xie burst out with monstrous evil energy and rushed towards the old man like a mad dog. Seal the void and destroy them. Seeing Tian Xie rushing out, Xiao Chen looked very indifferent. He said to Tian Xingjian and Zhongli beside him, "Now that we have made a grudge, we will kill them all." As for whether the great principal empire will retaliate later, Xiao Chen has no fear at all. As long as he goes to the Kangshuan realm next, subdues the other emperors of the Great Wilderness sect, and then helps Zhongli recover to the 9th level of the emperor. Even if all the powerful men from the Great Principal Emperor dynasty came together, they would never be their opponents. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, Tian Xingjian did not hesitate at this time, and took one step forward to appear on the void battlefield. The terrifying pressure of the 7th level of the emperor swept across the world like a storm. There is no divine ability killer move. He just hit the old man with a simple and rough punch. And Zhongli heard this. Xiao Chen rolled his eyes at Xiao Chen angrily, and then pointed his finger at the void with a burst of cultivation. The magic lines were like spider webs, sealing 100 miles of void in an instant. It even condensed into strange purple butterflies and swooped towards everyone with a raging heavenly demon aura. There are 2 other great emperors. Feeling the explosion of these 2 breaths, the expression of the old man in the void changed drastically, and his state of mind completely collapsed at this moment. If Tian Xie was the only emperor, he would still be sure to defeat the opponent. But now 2 other powerful men in the emperor realm have appeared. And each breath is more terrifying than the last, each one is an existence that he cannot compete with. 3 people beat him alone, how could he be his opponent? Misunderstand. Sir, this is all a misunderstanding. I don't know that 18th prince at all. In a state of horror, the old man collided with Tian Xie, and shouted in an extremely frightened voice. But as the words echoed, Tian Xingjian's punch condensed the terrifying power of desolation, and it crashed down on him, forcing him to resist with all his strength. Even if it means sacrificing the emperor weapon. He was also punched by Tian Xingjian so much that he vomited blood and stared at the 2 of them with extremely horrified eyes. He turned out to be a powerful person at the 7th level of the emperor. Who is this young master, and why are there so many emperors protecting him when traveling? Sir, we at Heavenly Sword Sect were forced to surrender to the great principal emperor. I hope the young master will give us a chance to change our ways. Heavenly Sword Sect Group. After seeing this scene, everyone's expressions changed dramatically and they all begged Xiao Chen for mercy. Originally, they could be on Xiao Chen's side. However, due to insufficient information, it is impossible to speculate on how powerful the background of Mr. Xiao is. So, even under the persuasion of the four elders, Wang Jianming still chose to surrender to the great principal empire without even informing Xiao Chen. I didn't expect this Mr. Xiao, who originally only had a few supreme masters, turned out to have several terrifying emperor masters appear behind him. Such changes made them regretful. 77%. Chapter 374. Did you know that the person next to me also has the cultivation level of the 8th level emperor? Hearing Wang Jianming and others begging for mercy, Xiao Chen just showed a sneer. From the moment the opponent chooses to surrender to the great principal empire, they lose the opportunity to become servants. Now, he doesn't need this kind of helplessness. Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't say anything, Zhongli didn't hold anything back at this time. The divine ability of purple butterflies that easily blasted away many powerful people fell on these people like moths to the flame. In an instant, there were constant explosions accompanied by roaring sounds. Whether it's Luo Chenfeng's personal bodyguards or the many powerful men in Heavenly Sword sect. The whole body exploded into a ball of blood mist amid the raging demonic energy. Instant kill. All are instant kills. He is not considered a Saint King level powerhouse, or a supreme level powerhouse. As long as they are below the emperor level, no one can compete with these purple butterflies, they are all easily wiped out like ants. This is the disparity in power caused by the gap in strength. A group of supreme realm powerhouses. In front of a powerful person in the late stage of the emperor realm, he is just a stronger ant. Stop. Are you going to start a war with our great principal empire? Seeing that many powerful men fell one after another under the attack of Zhongli's divine ability, Luo Chenfeng's eyes were splitting at this moment, and his voice was roaring hysterically. These supreme warriors in front of him are all his hard work. It was hard for him to have such a team, but now he was being slaughtered mercilessly. It was like cutting his heart out. It's better that Luo Chenfeng didn't speak. This opening immediately attracted Zhongli's attention, and a cold light appeared in Zhongli's eyes. This guy just now. But he looked around her body several times with an extremely wanton look, and now he actually dared to yell at her. Then go to hell. When their eyes were fixed on Luo Chenfeng, several purple butterflies also whizzed away towards him. This scene, Luo Chenfeng's pupils shrank violently, and a look of fear appeared on his face. Hurry up and escort. At the critical moment, Luo Chenfeng yelled at the old man above. But that emperor-level expert was already in danger under the siege of Tian Xie and Tian Xingjian. How can you still think about coming to escort him? Only the cart-pulling beast roared with supreme power and struck a purple butterfly with its claws. But the next moment, there was an explosion accompanied by a roar. The claws of the heavenly fire purple flame dragon exploded into a ball of blood mist on the spot when it collided with the purple butterfly. A shrill roar came from his mouth. And several other purple butterflies. In an instant, he flew into the chariot stands, causing Luo Chenfeng's expression to change drastically. Father, save me. Seeing 3 purple butterflies swooping towards him, Luo Chenfeng took out a jade pendant, as if summoning the light to come. Even at this moment, a ring on his hand flashed with a faint light, and then turned into a terrifying protective barrier. Boom. Almost as soon as the protective barrier was formed, 3 purple butterflies also landed on the barrier. The ear-splitting roar shook the entire world. The chariot palace where Luo Chenfeng was located was thrown out on the spot during the impact, and the protective barrier also exploded. But just when the storm was about to overwhelm Luo Chenfeng, as the jade pendant in his hand shattered, a golden light erupted from his body. An extremely terrifying aura of imperial law swept across the world at this moment. Next moment, when a dragon roar shook the world, a 5-clawed golden dragon rose into the sky. The 3 purple butterflies condensed by Zhongli were exploded by the 5-clawed golden dragon at this moment. This scene, the eyes of Xiao Chen, Zhongli and others froze slightly. It seems that a slightly more troublesome guy has arrived. Seeing the 5-clawed golden dragon in front of him, Xiao Chen murmured in surprise. Even in the void, Tian Xie and Tian Xingjian, who were ravaging the old man, saw the 5-clawed golden dragon appearing, and each of them looked over with solemn eyes. Because the energy fluctuations emitted by the 5-clawed golden dragon silhouette in front of him actually reached the astonishing 6th level of the Emperor. After being coaxed by my gentle voice, Medusa's classmate immediately lost her temper. She also said that she would get me some nutritious breakfast milk so that I could replenish my body. Alas, it was all my fault that I was too handsome. Roar. Under the gaze of everyone, the five-clawed golden dragon let out a roar. Then a divine dragon swung its tail and swooped down, transforming into a middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe. His Majesty. Seeing this figure appearing in front of me, the old man was fighting with Tian Xie and Tian Xingjian. There was a look of excitement on his face. In the great principal dynasty, there were two emperors. One is Luo Chunggong, the ancestor of the royal family, who once established a huge dynasty with ruthless means. His cultivation has reached the astonishing 7th level of the emperor, and he is also a top expert in the entire eastern domain. But now it is hidden behind the scenes, and its reputation is weaker than before. Another one. This is the current emperor of the great principal dynasty, Luo Hao. Among the generations of emperors who followed the great principal, he was the only one who was not weaker than the ancestor of the royal family in terms of talent or means. Now his cultivation has reached the 6th level of the emperor. If it is combined with the imperial luck method, it can be said to be the second most powerful person in the great principal dynasty besides the royal ancestor. Now that this one has suddenly arrived, maybe things will turn around. It's not the real body coming. Just a drop of life essence and blood, combined with imperial luck and some special means, to condense a clone projection. When the old man looked excited, Xiao Chen just glanced at Luo Hao and saw that something was wrong with him. However, although this guy is not the real body, he still has 70% of the strength of the real body. Unfortunately, it can only last for half a quarter of an hour. What's more, the clone projection of this kind of strength has no effect on them. Who are you? After Luo Hao's clone projection arrived, his eyes fell on Xiao Chen and others. Especially when I felt that Tian Xingjian and Zhong Li exuded a heart-stopping sense of crisis. Luo Hao's expression became particularly solemn. These two people are actually powerful men above the 7th level of the emperor. Especially that woman, the aura exuding from her body was comparable to that of the ancestor of the royal family. This made Luo Hao's heart sink. Some people can't understand how his son could provoke such a terrifying existence. You don't need to know who I am. All you need to know is, your son wants to kill me. If you don't give an explanation for this matter, I'm afraid there will be no way for me to get along with the great principal emperor on a friendly terms. Xiao Chen smiled indifferently when he heard this, and said in a cold voice. In words, revealing a naked threat. This made Luo Hao's eyes turn cold and he spoke in a low voice. Did you know that our ancestor of the royal family is a powerful person at the 8th level of the emperor? I feel that the other party and the whole group are not simple. Luo Hao did not hesitate to reveal the true cultivation level of the royal ancestor at this time, trying to shock the mysterious young master in front of him. However, after saying these words, Xiao Chen's face showed no trace of panic, but a hint of sarcasm. Then did you know that the person next to me also has the cultivation level of the 8th level of the emperor? As these words fell, Luo Hao's pupils suddenly shrank, and Luo Chenfeng's face turned even pale. Just now, it turned out to be a strong man at the 8th level of the emperor who took action against him. No wonder the other party could almost annihilate them all with just one click. It turned out that the other party's cultivation level was so terrifying. Then I don't know what you want to explain, Your Excellency. After his expression changed, Luo Hao's expression returned to coldness and he asked in a low voice. Today's incident, if it is not handled well, it will be a big trouble for the great principal dynasty. 78%. Chapter 375. If he can take one of my tricks, I will treat what happened today as if it never happened. It's very simple. After hearing Luo Hao's inquiry, Xiao Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a sinister arc. Whoever wants this young master to die, then this young master will want him to die. No matter what this person's identity is. As these words fell, Luo Hao's expression became gloomy. Obviously, he didn't expect that Xiao Chen would be so strong. Is he trying to make things worse? Your Excellency, although I don't know which force you come from, the great principal empire is also a top force, and it also has a lot of friendship with the Jun family of the ancient clan. And the one next to you. If I admit my mistake correctly, she should be the willow god of the 100 Beasts mountain range. As he spoke, Luo Hao's voice became deeper and his eyes flickered as he continued. No wonder the Dark Forbidden Zone has sent many strong men scattered throughout the eastern domain in the past 2 days, seemingly looking for something. It turns out that the famous Lu Shen didn't die in that battle. If the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone knows about it, even if there are several emperors around you, I'm afraid you will be in big trouble. He had been obsessed with this magnificent empress for a while, and there were even many portraits in his study. So at this time, even though Lu Ruoxian didn't burst out with cultivation aura, Luo Hao just glanced at Xiao Chen and his group. You can also recognize it at a glance, this is the Lu Shen. Are you threatening me? Xiao Chen's face turned cold when he heard this, his eyes flashed with a cold light, and the aura on his body became more and more dangerous. His life. He hates people threatening him the most, especially, threaten him by using his woman as his weakness. Your Excellency misunderstood. I'm just kindly reminding you, not to mention that I also admired Fairy Lu back then. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Luo Hao smiled lightly. No emotion can be heard in the words, only Gujing Wubo's indifference. Seems determined. After he said these words, Xiao Chen and the others would give in. If he completely turns against the great principal emperor, he will not only offend the great principal emperor to death, but also put Lu Ruoxian at risk of being exposed. Smart person. Naturally, they will choose to give in. Haha, what a kind reminder. Xiao Chen sneered and said in a low voice. I can choose to give in, but I also need an explanation. How about this? If he can take over this young master's move, I will treat what happened today as if it never happened. But if you can't take it, everyone here will be dealt with by this young master. Whether this young master wants to kill or behead him, it has nothing to do with the great principal empire. Finished. Xiao Chen took a step forward. The cultivation aura of Saint King's 8th level also swept across the world at this moment. This made Luo Hao's eyes suddenly freeze, and his expression couldn't help but change. Luo Chenfeng was one of his two most promising princes. Otherwise, he would not have had the life-saving trump card in his possession. Now his cultivation level has reached the 9th level of Saint King. Even those evil emperors from the ancient clan would have to struggle to defeat Luo Chenfeng at the same level. Xiao Chen is only at the 8th level of Saint King, but he dares to say this condition. Is it possible that the opponent is from a hidden ancient clan, and his own strength is already invincible in the Saint King realm? Father, since he has such a request, let the child take action. My child would like to see how much confidence he has to say such things. When Luo Hao's eyes flickered, he couldn't help but be suspicious. Luo Chenfeng on the side seemed to be stimulated, and at this moment he spoke to Luo Hao in a low voice. As the evil genius of the apex level force, he has an arrogance that is difficult for ordinary people to match. I came to conquer Xingshan Pavilion today, but I was suddenly disrupted and almost killed. Now I am even more humiliated by this young man. The other party said these words. Don't you just think that he, a strong man in the 9th level of Saint King, can't even take one of the opponent's moves? After drinking the breakfast milk, I suddenly saw my sister-in-law acting cunningly. It turned out that she had damaged classmate Medusa's imported bag and wanted me to take the blame, but this was also a handle. Since you are so confident, just follow what he says. But if you can't even take one of his moves, then even if you are my valued heir, I will no longer care about your life or death. Luo Hao was still guessing about the meaning of Xiao Chen's move. Was he extremely confident in himself, or was he trying to find a way out due to his threats? Suddenly hearing Luo Chenfeng's words made his eyes become a little cold. Encounter a little setback, then a little stimulation. I couldn't hold my breath anymore. With such a psyche, it is basically impossible to become a prince and inherit the throne. When Luo Chenfeng heard Luo Hao's words and saw the cold eyes, his face turned a little pale at this moment. The whole person also woke up, but he couldn't allow him to look back. Father, my son, I will not let you down. Feeling a little frightened in his heart, Luo Chenfeng gritted his teeth and said this sentence, then turned around and stared at Xiao Chen ferociously. I have been in the southeastern area of profound heaven for many years. There are not many people at the same level who can withstand one of my attacks without getting hurt. Today, my prince wants to see how you can defeat me in one move. As the cold words echoed in the world, Luo Chenfeng waved his hand and sacrificed a king's sword, and his cultivation level exploded to the extreme in an instant. In the echo of the dragon's roar, a red flame flood dragon phantom, followed by 1,000-foot sword light, capsized towards Xiao Chen. Every inch of the void he passed exploded. You are wrong. This young master does not intend to defeat you with one move, but to obliterate you with one move. Seeing Luo Chenfeng taking the initiative to attack, Xiao Chen sneered and took a step forward. Saint King's 8th level cultivation suddenly exploded, and the 5 elements Shira spear appeared in his hand. Next moment, as the words echoed between heaven and earth, The chaotic world purifying thunder and fire followed the vast true energy and poured into the Shira spear like a torrent. Divine ability without any bells and whistles. Xiao Chen just raised his hand and stabbed forward lightly, and another dragon roar shook the world. In the explosion of thunder and fire power, that shocking spear light turned into the shadow of a chaotic ancestral dragon, and collided with the sword light under the gaze of everyone. There was a huge explosion accompanied by roaring sounds. Luo Chenfeng's sword light could not last for a breath before it was shattered by the phantom of the chaos ancestral dragon during the impact. This is impossible. Seeing that such a terrifying sword of his was easily broken by Xiao Chen, Luo Chenfeng yelled in disbelief. Immediately afterwards, seeing the phantom of the chaos ancestral dragon rushing towards him, Luo Chenfeng's pupils almost burst out of his eye sockets. "Father, save me!" Roaring, Luo Chenfeng rushed towards Luo Hao with all his strength, but he saw a look full of indifference. Boom. Next moment, the phantom of the chaos ancestral dragon struck Luo Chenfeng, and his remaining limbs exploded in the void along with the blood mist. Half of Luo Chenfeng's body was blasted into debris. Terrifying power impact. Not only was his vitality wiped out in an instant, but even the soul of consciousness C was blasted into pieces. This scene, Luo Hao's pupils shrank sharply and he couldn't help clenching his fists. You must know that the prince who can be favored by him must have a talent that is monstrous among his peers. Without any exaggeration, even though Luo Chenfeng has not yet entered the supreme realm, he has exploded with his own fighting power and the king's soldiers in his hands. The combat power is definitely comparable to some strong men who have just broken through the supreme realm. Looking at Eastern Domain, it is also a rare talent. But that's how it exists. With a small difference in cultivation level, he actually killed someone with one move. This moment, Luo Hao's heart was filled with turmoil, and his expression was changing uncertainly. I gave him a chance, but it's a pity that he failed to live up to his expectations and couldn't even take a single move. After obliterating Luo Chenfeng, Xiao Chen put away the 5 elements Shira spear and looked at Luo Hao. 78%. Chapter 376. You can think that. I am just reminding you in good faith. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Luo Hao's expression froze. Then he looked over with a faint look. According to the previous agreement, these remaining people are at your disposal. I won't ask any more questions. After a moment of silence, Luo Hao's expression returned to calm and he spoke in an indifferent voice. The old man and some remaining soldiers were captured. His complexion changed dramatically. His Majesty. Old slave has made great contributions to the great principal emperor and shed blood for the great principal emperor. You can't give up on me like this. In disbelief, the old man in gray shouted loudly. As he spoke, he even broke out in cultivation, wanting to tear apart the void and escape from here. But this area of the world has been blocked by Zhong Li. Without breaking the magic pattern blockade, there is no way to cross the void. And when he made a move, when Tian Xie and Tian Xingzhan revealed their murderous intentions, they once again used divine ability to kill each other. The terrifying fighting broke out in the void again. However, Xiao Chen and others ignored it. After the protective barrier separated the impact of the storm, Xiao Chen stared at the emperor. I can't tell, but you are quite courageous. With his eyes flickering, Xiao Chen said in a low voice. After the death of a son, to be able to calm down so quickly is truly worthy of being an emperor. This aspect is somewhat similar to the former Huang Guang. You have no joke. When Luo Hao heard this, he just replied these words indifferently. In the royal family, a useless heir, nothing more than a piece of rotten flesh shot out from ejaculation, not even a human being in the eyes of the emperor. Although this sentence sounds a bit ugly, it is definitely not exaggerated in the slightest. The royal family has been ruthless since ancient times. Especially when it comes to treating children and concubines, this ruthlessness has almost reached the extreme. After all, in the eyes of the emperor, he basically only had the dynasty's imperial legacy and his ambition to expand his territory. The death of a few heirs or concubines is not a big deal at all. What a good Zhen Wuxian. Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this, and he continued in a low voice. In this case, the grudge between this young master and the great principal dynasty has ended. If you don't provoke me from now on, I will not trouble you. But if you, because of what happened today or for some other reasons, directly or indirectly cause this young master and his party to encounter some trouble, I think the relationship between us didn't end so easily then. As these words fell, Luo Hao's expression became colder and colder, and he glanced at Lu Ruoxian. Are you threatening me? Not to reveal Lu Shen's whereabouts? No, 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 you can think. I am just reminding you in good faith to prevent you from making mistakes on impulse. Xiao Chen smiled indifferently when he heard this, and replied calmly. That kind of neither humble nor arrogant. Even when facing the leader of the imperial dynasty, he did not show any guilt or panic, which made Kayan and others look strange. He dared to face a powerful emperor-level man with his Saint King-level cultivation. Looking at the entire eastern domain, few have such courage. A kind reminder. When Luo Hao heard this, he took a deep look at Xiao Chen and said nothing more at this moment. This projection. It exploded in a flash of golden light and disappeared completely into the world. Xiao Chen just watched the other party leave without letting Zhang Li and others stop him. There is no other reason. At this time, Luo Hao was just a projection. If they take action, they can completely leave the opponent behind or completely blow them up, causing the opponent's body to suffer backlash and damage. But do it. It will also completely irritate the other party and completely stiffen the situation. By then, this great principal emperor will definitely contact the strong men in the dark forbidden zone and carry out a crazy hunt for their group. So it was okay to kill his son, but not to Luo Hao. Being caught by me, I threatened that she could take the blame, but she had to pay a price that satisfied me. This made my sister-in-law a little aggrieved, but she was also looking forward to it. Husband, this great principal emperor may be a variable. Seeing Luo Hao's projection disappear, Kayan said in a solemn voice. If he is a smart emperor, he will not be exposed as a fairy for the time being. But during this time we should be able to find out the movements of the powerful people in the dark restricted area, and find out all the information about our group, so that he can be prepared for both things. One is, after you find out the details of our group and feel that we are not a big threat, you can kill us with a borrowed knife to eliminate us. The other one is, after finding out the details of our group, we feel that we are unable to compete with our group, and are even stronger than the dark forbidden zone. When we encounter a strong person in the dark restricted area, we can use a trick to completely resolve the grievances between the two parties, and even stand on the same camp as our group. After Kayan finished speaking, Xiao Chen revealed all his speculations. This made Zhang Li, Kai Yan and others' eyes widen. Obviously didn't expect it. Xiao Chen actually understood the emperor's thoughts thoroughly in a short period of time. From their perspective as leaders of one party, these two choices are undoubtedly the most sensible and can maximize their own interests. Really. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, in the distant great principal palace, a man sitting on a dragon throne suddenly opened his eyes at this moment. A terrifying imperial power also filled the hall. Abby, I want you to do two things. The first thing is, let me find out the origins of these people as quickly as possible, but don't disturb them. Looking at a white-haired old man in the hall, Luo Hao spoke in a low voice. While talking, his eyes flickered slightly. Suddenly there was light flashing in the main hall, and the figures of Xiao Chen and his party appeared in the Jinluan hall. This made Ebisu's eyes suddenly freeze. Because he actually saw two familiar figures. One was Emperor Lu Divine Maiden, who was once famous throughout the Eastern Domain, and the other seemed to be the sect leader of the Great Desolate Sect in Kangshuan Realm. Everyone else looked strange, but they all had extraordinary bearings. Especially the stern young master at the head had an indescribable aura about him. Another thing, send people to pay close attention to the places where the powerful people in the dark forbidden area are hiding now after entering the various realms of the Eastern Domain. Especially in the southern part of Profound Heaven, are there any people from the demonic clan? If you learn that someone from the Night Demon clan has contact with this group of people, you must inform me as soon as possible. Just as Xiao Chen guessed, Luo Hao issued these two instructions. Said, Luo Hao seemed to have thought of something again, and continued in a faint voice. Besides, I am announcing to concubine you that the 18th prince was ambushed by the strong men from Celestial Beast Mountain when he was heading to the southern part of Profound Heaven. I was unable to save his life. Order Chen Beiwang to lead 100,000 soldiers to go to Celestial Beast Mountain immediately to avenge the 18th prince. Celestial Beast Mountain. It was an important obstacle to the expansion of the Great Principal Empire to the southwest. But because there are two powerful emperors in charge, and there are shadows of other forces behind them. All the time, Luo Hao couldn't find any excuse to take action. This time, Luo Chenfeng's fall became a breakthrough. After all, Luo Chenfeng suffered an assassination 2 years ago, suspected to have been carried out by a strong man from Celestial Beast Mountain. So his mother-in-law. Only through the relationship between the Yu family, a powerful emperor was invited to protect Luo Chenfeng. That is the old man in gray. Now that the other party is facing Xiao Chen and his party, it should be impossible for them to come back alive. Even if you are not dead. Based on the negotiation he had just had with Xiao Chen, the other party would definitely take control of the other party's life, and he had leverage over Xiao Chen and his group. This guy would definitely not pass on the truth about Luo Chenfeng's death to the top brass of the Yu family. 78%. Chapter 377. Sir, I have an 8,000-year-old mother above me, and a 3-year-old baby waiting to be fed. The other side. When Luo Hao issued the order for Hai Lao to execute it, the battle on Xiao Chen's side also entered the final stage. Luo Chenfeng's personal bodyguards, and the strong men of Heavenly Sword Sect. They were all completely obliterated by Zhang Li. Even though the strong men of the Heavenly Sword Sect begged for mercy, Xiao Chen did not leave these people alive. In just a few moments, the old man in gray was the only one left in the entire void battlefield. Quick victory. Looking at the sky, Xiao Chen frowned. The cold voice echoed between heaven and earth. This old guy is quite capable, and he actually managed to persist in his dream for such a long time. However, given the disparity in power, defeat is only a matter of time. Jia Jia Jia, the Lord Demon Lord has spoken, you can go to hell. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Tian Xie let out a strange laugh, and his cultivation reached its peak. A phantom of heavenly demon appeared behind him. As Tianxi's scream reverberated across the heaven and earth, the substantial sound waves carried the terrifying evil soul fluctuations, crashing down on the old man like a tsunami. But Tian Xingjian didn't say anything. He formed seals with his hands to form a desolate monument, and immediately suppressed the old man in gray. The two powerful emperors went all out, making the void unable to bear the collapse. Even the magic patterns condensed by Zhang Li were trembling under this impact. The old man in gray spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing the terrifying killing moves that followed one after another in front of him, an old face became extremely distorted in fear. No, sir, I have an 8,000-year-old mother above me and a 3-year-old baby waiting to be fed. I hope you. Boom. Before the old man in gray finished speaking, 2 divine ability blasts hit the opponent. Along with the roaring explosion, the old man in gray was completely overwhelmed by the divine ability, and he let out an extremely shrill scream. Almost half of his body was reduced to rubble by these 2 divine abilities. But after the old man used his life-saving trump card and a gray light flashed across his body, he still managed to survive this wave of attacks. This scene, Tian Xie and Tian Xingjian both showed a look of astonishment, and even Xiao Chen had a look of surprise on his face. Apparently he didn't expect this guy to be so strong. Sir, I am willing to surrender, I am willing to be a dog. I hope you will spare my life. Amid hysterical roars, the old man in gray dragged his broken body and rushed towards Xiao Chen like crazy. This scene, Tian Xie and Tian Xingjian's expressions changed, and they had to hit the target again when their cultivation levels exploded. Completely end the life of this powerful emperor. Zhang Li, on the other hand, focused her eyes, raised her hand and shook the gray-clothed old man in the air, and magic lines turned into chains and shot out. The void in front of Xiao Chen was completely sealed, and the old man in gray was also sealed in the cage. Even this emperor, if she wants to blow herself up and drag them into the water, she is confident that she can handle it calmly. Don't kill him yet. After seeing this, Xiao Chen's eyes flickered slightly and he spoke to several people. Certainly, it wasn't that Xiao Chen felt compassion and couldn't bear to kill the old man in gray. But the other party has the cultivation level of the 4th level of the emperor. If you can control the other person's life and death, turn the other person into his tool. This is more valuable than killing him directly. After all, it takes a lot of time and energy to train a genius to grow to the level of emperor. If you can conquer the ready-made ones, this is much better than wasting a lot of time and resources on training yourself. In order to punish this woman, I decided to let her play ball with me in the room. Unexpectedly, she was not afraid at all. She also said that she had practiced and wanted to conquer me with her ball skills. Sir, I am willing to surrender, but I hope you will give me a chance to be a dog. I have an 8,000-year-old mother above me and a 3-year-old baby waiting to be fed. The whole family is counting on me, an old man, to work hard outside. After hearing Xiao Chen's order for others to stop taking action, the old man in gray didn't care about his broken body and begged Xiao Chen like a ghost. I had no idea what nonsense he was saying. An 8,000-year-old mother, a 3-year-old baby waiting to be fed. Xiao Chen's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this, and he looked at the old man with strange eyes. Such words. How could it be said from the mouth of a powerful emperor? 8,000-year-old mother. This must be a female great emperor, right? Integrated union you can gain hope of life and become my servant. Feeling speechless inside, Xiao Chen was too lazy to talk nonsense with the old man in gray. He formed a seal with his hands and condensed a soul seal of life and death, causing it to float in front of the old man. The old man in gray clothes showed an ecstatic expression. Without even a moment's hesitation, he pressed the soul seal of life and death into his broken head. It seemed that he was afraid that if he hesitated, some of the powerful great emperors around him would directly kill him. With the soul seal of life and death disappearing, there was a roar and explosion in the old man's sea of consciousness, and even his body began to tremble violently. This moment, after the soul seal of life and death merged into the soul body and true spirit, he could clearly feel that his life was completely in Xiao Chen's hands. As long as the other party has a thought, even if the other party's cultivation is only at the Saint King level, he can still obliterate him as an emperor. Although this thing sounds a bit fanciful, it really happened to him, and it made him dare not have any resentment or hatred. Come over. After controlling the life and death of the old man in gray, Xiao Chen said to this guy calmly. The old man in gray clothes trembled when he heard this, and he did not dare to resist at this time. He could only hold back his breath, dragging his broken body and tremblingly to Xiao Chen. Zhang Li, Lu Ruoxian and others. They still did not relax their vigilance, and several people stared at the old man. It seemed that only the old man in gray dared to make any move. They will completely erase each other from the world in the shortest possible time. Watching coming to the front, the old man in gray clothes who was already bloody, Xiao Chen didn't say anything nonsense, he just raised his hand and pointed at the other person. The opponent's broken body was instantly repaired. The old man's pupils shrank violently, and he raised his head in great horror. What's happening here? Repair his broken body in just a moment. He had just been half broken by two great emperors. Even if he was lucky enough to save his life in the future, there was no hope of returning to his peak. There is even a risk of a decline in cultivation. But he didn't expect that even if part of his body was missing, the young master in front of him only had to raise his hand and all his physical injuries would be restored to the original. Is this God? What's your name? When the old man was extremely frightened, Xiao Chen asked in a calm voice. It seemed that conquering an emperor was nothing to him. My name is Wang Defa. I was originally the ancestor of the Tianyu sect in the Xuanyu realm, but because I offended the Wanggu Jun family, I had to disband the sect. A man came to profound heaven to avoid the limelight, and he happened to have some friendship with the ancestor of the Yu family. In addition, the 18th prince and her mother made sacrifices to set a trap for me. I accidentally failed to hold back and was caught by her. That's why I have to be that kid's protector. Hear Xiao Chen's words. The old man in gray.no, Wang Defa almost explained his origins and how to become Luo Chenfeng's protector in the most concise words. All told in detail. This made Xiao Chen's eyes slightly condensed, and he looked at Wang Defa strangely. You slept with the 18th prince, the concubine of the great principal emperor. 78%. Chapter 378 Jia, do you think I am too crazy? When I disbanded the sect and came to the profound heaven realm, I happened to have accumulated a lot of grievance and anger, and I needed to find someone to vent it to. And that woman. It seems that I have been neglected by the great principal emperor for decades. He was so proactive that night and his posture was so charming. On impulse, I just. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Wang Defa replied awkwardly. But talk and talk. He saw Xiao Chen's eyes flickering, as if he was weighing something. Wang Defa glanced at Lu Ruoxian and others, and his whole body seemed to realize something, and the hairs all over his body trembled and exploded in an instant. Sir, what happened that day was definitely an accident. I am definitely not a wife lover. I won't even have the slightest thought about the women around you. I can swear by the oath of heaven on this point. If I violate it, God will kill me completely. As if he was afraid that Xiao Chen would become suspicious, Wang Defa swore to the sky in excitement, and suddenly there was a roar in the sky. This made a look of astonishment appear on Xiao Chen's face. He was just thinking, if the great principal emperor knew that he had been tricked, would he come to trouble him? I didn't expect this guy to have such an extreme reaction. He is truly a timid emperor. Okay, I don't care whether you are a wife lover or not, but the premise is, don't cause any trouble to me because of your bad qualities. If you cause any trouble to me, even if you are an emperor-level expert and are of great use to me, I will sacrifice you without hesitation. Seeing Wang Defa's nervous expression, Xiao Chen waved his hand and said, I don't dare. After hearing what Xiao Chen said, Wang Defa's expression changed and he quickly responded. That kind of respectful look has completely replaced that of a slave. After Wang Defa finished speaking, Xiao Chen didn't say anything more. He just waved his hand and asked the other party to hand over all his wealth. Immediately afterwards, he ordered Tianxi and others to clean up the void and recover all the loot and corpse fragments. The group of people landed in the Star Pavilion. Next, I will rest in the Star Pavilion for a night. After dawn tomorrow, I will hear the news that the Heavenly Sword sect has been erased. After landing on the star-gying tower of Xingqian Pavilion, Xiao Chen said to several people in an indifferent voice, which made Luo Chenyi and others feel trembling. Sir, let me leave this matter to you. I happen to have stayed at Heavenly Sword sect 2 days ago, and I am quite familiar with the situation there. This time I take action. Heavenly Sword sect won't even be able to survive an earthworm underground. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, before Luo Chenyi and others could speak, Wang Defa quickly spoke. Tian Xie and the others were stunned by the look of them wanting to make meritorious deeds. Then I'll leave this matter to you. On this trip, in addition to completely erasing the Heavenly Sword sect, I must bring back all the valuable things in the other sect to my master. After listening to Wang Defa's words, Xiao Chen nodded. After saying that, Xiao Chen walked into the star-reaching building to sort out all the gains from this trip. Lu Ruoxian, Kaiyan and others did not stay outside. They all followed Xiao Chen into the star-reaching building. Outside the pavilion, only Wang Defa, Tian Xie and others were left. After playing basketball with my sister-in-law for an hour, I came to the kitchen to prepare for some nutrition, but I accidentally bumped into my mother-in-law. She looked very hungry. Was she going to eat secretly in the kitchen? Jia, you kid. You do know how to express yourself. After Xiao Chen and others walked into the star-gying building, Tianxi stared at Wang Defa and couldn't help but laugh strangely, exuding an evil aura all over his body. What do you want to do? Seeing Tianxi's unkind look, Wang Defa's expression also changed. He was fully aware of the explosion of this guy's combat power just now. That kind of terrifying soul attack and the weird evil element attack are not something ordinary emperors can have. Even he is considered a leader at the same level. There is nothing that can be done to the other party in a short period of time. The two of them even joined forces and were almost killed on the spot in just 10 breaths. If he hadn't obtained a trump card in his early years, which was enough to compete with the strong men in the 7th level of the Emperor, I'm afraid he would be dead now. So when Wang Defa heard Tianxi's words, he became very vigilant. Jia, don't be nervous, I won't do anything to you. Seeing Wang Defa's guarded expression, Tianxi smiled strangely at this moment. I just want to tell you. No matter how you express yourself, the number 1 lackey under the Demon Lord can only be me. No one knows how to lick the Demon Lord better than me. This position of first slave can only belong to me. Jihieji. After saying these words with a righteous expression, Tianxi let out that iconic weird laugh again. Everyone who saw Wang Defa and Tian Xingjian looked stunned. They thought Tianxi was trying to cause trouble, but they didn't expect it was for the honor of the first servant. This guy's brain circuit is really strange, and he doesn't look like a powerful emperor at all. I won't argue with you. The honor of being the first slave will always be yours. After a moment of silence, Wang Defa said aggrievedly. A powerful person in the 4th level of the Emperor was only 1 step away from breaking through to the 5th level of the Emperor, but he was warned by a guy in the 3rd level of the Emperor. But people under the eaves have to bow their heads. Now that he had just become a slave, he could only endure it for the time being. Jia, do you think I am too crazy? My cultivation level is lower than yours, but I dare to overwhelm you. As if seeing Wang Defa's frustration, Tianxi couldn't help but laugh strangely, and his hoarse voice echoed outside the hall. I am the 5th elder of the Heavenly Demon Clan. At my peak, I was infinitely close to the 8th level of the Emperor. Do you really think that I am just a weakling at the 3rd level? Are you the 5th elder of the Heavenly Demon Clan? After hearing Tianxi's words, Wang Defa's expression changed and he looked at Tianxi in shock. Although he had realized that Tianxi was from the Heavenly Demon Clan, he never expected that he was actually the 5th elder of the Heavenly Demon Clan. If you say so, is it possible that Xiao Chen is the reincarnation of a certain great emperor from the Heavenly Demon Clan? Otherwise, this guy wouldn't be called Lord Demon Lord. The mystery of the Demon Lord is far beyond your imagination. I will slowly reveal some of these things to you. Now it is better to complete the Demon Lord's explanation first. After saying that, Tian Xie left here with Wang Defa. Seeing this scene, Tian Xingjian and Da Wang ancestor shook their heads. This guy must have seen that Wang Defa had the talent to be a good slave, so he wanted to accept him as his younger brother in advance to consolidate his status as a slave for the first time. It's really childish. Xiao Chen was completely unaware of the intrigue between Tian Xie and Wang Defa at this time, and of course he would not care about such a thing. After digging out many trophies in the pavilion, Xiao Chen simply investigated. Finding no special treasures, they recycled everything. After all, he already has a lot of treasures, but what he lacks is the points to upgrade the system. As long as the system can be upgraded for the third time, he will be able to produce emperor-level treasures in the future. Therefore, he does not need to keep some treasures. After recycling everything in one go, Xiao Chen also opened the properties panel and checked the current points balance. 78%. Chapter 379 Husband, Sister Ruoxian. Still can't let go. Host. Xiao Chen. Physique. Innate Tao body, the soul of enlightenment. Cultivation level. Saint King 8th level. Skills. The art of creating the universe, the art of fusion of spirits and subduing the gods. Divine ability. Heavenly Demon Shadowless Step, Great Wild True Dragon Fist, 5 Elements Heaven Shaking Seal, 9 Turn Golden Body Cover, 5 Elements Killing Technique, Emperor's Royal Household Technique. Points. 5,311,672,342. More than 5.3 billion points. Looking at the series of numbers on the attribute panel, Xiao Chen had a surprised look on his face. The entire net worth of an emperor-level expert, plus the relics of Luo Chenfeng and his group, can actually increase the points by more than 2 billion. The harvest this time was a bit beyond his expectation. It's not enough. There is still nearly half the gap between the target of 10 billion. Xiao Chen shook his head and closed the panel. Next. If you want to quickly reach 10 billion points, there are several ways to do it. One is completely crazy. Use these emperors around you to destroy and loot all the supreme forces in the profound heaven realm. In this way, the points will definitely reach 10 billion quickly. But, Xiao Chen is not a crazy devil, so there is no need to take such an extreme approach. Not to mention, doing so would make them a target. Once he is targeted by many emperors, even if he has the ability to resurrect, he will definitely be completely wiped out. The other method is more compromise. Just like you did in the Great Qian dynasty, you can find a merchant to buy a large amount of resource items and convert the accumulated spiritual crystals into points. Thus, you can also reach tens of billions of points in a short period of time. Certainly, he can also choose to go to the Great Desolate Sect, conquer all the emperor-level experts in the sect, and drain all the Great Desolate Sect's heritage. With the materials accumulated by the Great Desolation Sect over the years, it is enough for his points to exceed 10 billion. Why are your husband's brows tightening? Is there something bothering you? Xiao Chen frowned. He was thinking of crossing the profound heaven realm directly and heading to the Great Desolation Sect to conquer the powerful Great Emperors. It is better to find an emperor-level chamber of commerce in profound heaven first, purchase a large amount of supplies, and see if the points can be piled up to 10 billion. Qian saw Xiao Chen's worried face and thought something troublesome had happened. Asked with some surprise. It's nothing, I'm just thinking about where to go first. Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this, which made Qian slightly stunned. I thought Xiao Chen was rushing to take them to the 100 Beasts mountain range to find the ancient tomb ruins. Will feel very troubled. Husband, don't be too hasty. We don't have anything important to do now, so why not get Sister Zuying and the others settled first? Then go to the Great Desolation Sect and take control of it. With many powerful people from the Great Desolation Sect available for deployment, we will also have a say in the Eastern Domain. Whether it's the ancient Desolate Moon Clan, the Lord of the Dark Forbidden Zone, or the remains of the ancient tomb, I can deal with it calmly. As Kai Yan finished speaking, Xiao Chen raised his head in surprise. Obviously he didn't expect that the other party had already thought so carefully for him. She really deserves to be his good wife. If the itinerary is arranged in this way and no accidents occur along the way, this is indeed the safest arrangement. Since Madam has said so, let's make the following arrangements. After showing a smile, Xiao Chen said softly. While talking, The figure was already close to Kyan, without any concern about the person next to her, and she hugged the other person into her arms. Madam, you must be very exhausted physically and mentally after helping your husband think so much. Why don't you let me help you relax? With that said, Xiao Chen lifted Kyan's chin, causing the latter's face to blush. Even though she is Queen Medusa. And I don't know how many times I've been in and out of Xiao Chen. He is definitely the one with the richest actual combat experience. But at this time, Xiao Chen raised his chin so boldly and domineeringly in front of the other sisters. It still made her feel a little shy, but of course it was also a little exciting. What a scumbag. I saw Xiao Chen suddenly hugging Kai Yan and lifting her chin. Zhang Li looked slightly stunned and muttered with some contempt. There are so many confidants in the pavilion, but he is so unashamed to tease one of them. What is this if not a scumbag? The most disgusting thing is, a few days ago, this guy showed so much affection to another person, Lu Ruoxian. Now you have the nerve to be so affectionate with another woman in front of her. When the thought falls, Zhang Li looked at Lu Ruoxian with a playful expression, as if she was ready to watch a good show. If this magnificent empress suddenly becomes jealous, then this bitch will have his hands full. But follow the gaze. Zhang Li found that Lu Ruoxian was not jealous at all, but looked at the two people in front of him with soft eyes. This made Zhang Li's eyes widen. Not only is he not jealous, but he also has a gentle look on his face. Like a big sister watching over her younger siblings. Is this losing your mind? Seeing my appearance, my mother-in-law was also very enthusiastic. She kept letting me eat pineapples with honey juice, which made me feel sick and even vomited. She was even afraid that I wouldn't be full. I was going crazy. Husband, I want it too. You can't pamper your sister alone. When Zhang Li felt puzzled, Katie looked at the scene in front of her and said coquettishly. Then he hugged Xiao Chen's arm. Okay, don't be alone. Let's all come together tonight. Xiao Chen laughed and hugged Kai Dai. The way they hugged each other made all the girls feel shy and almost drove Zhang Li crazy. Actually, you still want to come together. What's outrageous is that Xiao Chen glanced at other women while speaking, as if he was not just talking to the two sisters. But to all the women present, well, no, all the women except her. There must be a dozen, right? It's so heartbreaking. Together, seeing Zhang Li's eyes widened with an expression of disbelief, Xiao Chen raised the corner of his mouth slightly and asked the other party with a smile. These three simple words made Zhang Li slightly stunned. Then a look of irritation appeared on his face. Shameless. Who wants to be with you? Who wants to be with you? Zhang Li originally wanted to call you a bitch, but after seeing the large group of beauties in the room, she ultimately did not say this title. He just replied with a sneer. After saying that, Zhang Li realized that it was no longer suitable to stay here for a long time, so she tore apart the space and disappeared into the pavilion. Husband, I also want to leave for a moment. Seeing Zhang Li leaving, Lu Ruoxian smiled gently and disappeared. This made Xiao Chen feel a little depressed. He wanted to drag Lu Ruoxian with him, but he didn't expect him to slip away so quickly. Husband, Sister Ruoxian. Still can't let go. Seeing Lu Ruoxian leaving, Kyan asked curiously. Actually, if she really wanted to be with this empress, she would become a little nervous and restrained. After all, Lu Ruoxian's elegant and noble temperament put a great deal of pressure on them. I want to show my true side in front of Lu Ruoxian. I'm afraid it will be a little difficult. I don't think so. She might be afraid of scaring you and subverting her previous image in your minds. Hearing Kyan's words, Xiao Chen shook his head and said. A few days ago, when he captured Lu Ruoxian, he didn't capture it completely. The look the other party showed actually scared even him. When desire is aroused, the other party is crazier than Kyan. Even when he is emotional, his eyes will glow strangely green, and wicker branches will grow out of his back. Then they tied him up, and then FK, it's unspeakable. Thinking of the contest a few days ago, Xiao Chen couldn't help but shiver, and of course he was also excited and scared. Fortunately, he had the chaos-purifying thunder fire, and his cultivation had broken through to the Saint King realm, so he could barely withstand Lu Ruoxian's madness. He even used special techniques in the end to make the opponent tremble and collapse. Only then was he lucky enough to gain some upper hand. Of course, this is only possible because Lu Ruoxian is still a little inexperienced. If the other party let go completely and cooperated with the Willow method, he might be defeated quickly. 79%. Chapter 380. What kind of person is he? Afraid of scaring us? After hearing Xiao Chen's answer, Kaiyan was stunned. This sentence seems like a huge amount of information. Could it be that Lu Ruoxian still has an unknown side? From what my husband meant, it seems that Sister Ruoxian has another side. I wonder, Dao Dao Kun. Can you elaborate a little bit? When she realized the huge amount of information, Kaiyan's curiosity was aroused. He immediately raised his hand to lift Xiao Chen's chin and asked in a cold and lustful voice. Kai Dai, Duan Muzuying and others are also very curious. More than a dozen eyes all fell on Xiao Chen. After all, gossip is a great pleasure for women. This has nothing to do with the level of cultivation. Lu Ruoxian was always so gentle and elegant in front of them. If the other person really has another side, then getting along with him in the future will be exciting. Bah, but it will be even easier. This is easy to say. Xiao Chen smiled slightly when he heard this, and also raised Kaiyan's chin. Husband, I can explain it to you in detail, but you should also elaborate on it later. After these profound words fell, the pavilion suddenly fell into a dead silence. Kaiyan et al. Listening to Xiao Chen's eloquent words, everyone reacted, with a blush appearing on their pretty faces. Husband, you are so bad. You're not afraid that each of us will burn you to death with one bite. After giving Xiao Chen a blank look, Kaiyan licked her lips. His whole body was filled with an aura of danger. And around, whether it is Duan Muzuying, Lu Hanfei and others, or Huolingji, Kai Dai Yunxi and others. Their faces were reddish and full of danger. Ha ha ha, if you have this ability, my husband will listen to you from now on. Xiao Chen was not afraid at all when he heard this, but instead smiled and made a provocation. This made Kaiyan and others a little unconvinced. Sisters, what should you do if you were looked down upon? Pet him. Go to death. After Kai Yan finished speaking, Huolingji and Kai Dai were the first to make a fuss, and then the group of people swarmed down. Next, it was destined to be another restless night. After breathing for a while, I was stopped by Zuner's sister when I was passing by the kitchen. She said that she had made lemon pie and strawberry milkshake and wanted me to try them. I couldn't even spit them out after eating them. You scumbag, what's there to be proud of? How dare you act like that? So what if I hug you from left to right? If I want it, all I have to do is raise my hand and make a move. The men who want to lick my toes can be cued from here to the other side of the Northern Territory. After being invited out of the wing by Xiao Chen, Zhongli suddenly felt very humiliated. Standing on the roof of the star-reaching tower, he clenched his fists fiercely and said with gritted teeth. There were so many hot beauties inside, but she was the only one invited out. Although the biggest reason, it's because those people are Xiao Chen's women, and she is just an outsider at best now. But this feeling of being alone and being teased by Xiao Chen made the queen very unhappy. But the next moment, as if she sensed something, Zhongli's demeanor returned to her graceful and elegant look. Looking down at the entire Xingqian pavilion, he chuckled and asked. Were you invited out too? Almost as soon as the words fell, the space around Zhongli rippled, and Lu Ruoxian's beautiful figure also emerged. No, I came out on my own. Lu Ruoxian was a little surprised when he heard this, and replied calmly. This made Zhongli's eyes brighten with interest. Really, seeing the scumbag hugging him from side to side, this woman, whose temperament was comparable to hers, finally couldn't stand this behavior anymore. I did not mean, I just couldn't let go for the time being, so I didn't stay with them. Seeing that Zhongli seemed to be gloating about his misfortune and was planning to come over to complain about Xiao Chen, Lu Ruoxian's light words directly blocked the topic. This made Zhongli's mouth twitch slightly. You like Xiao Chen? When Zhongli felt depressed, Lu Ruoxian looked at the other party and suddenly asked a surprising question. Zhongli stiffened slightly when she heard this, but returned to normal the next moment, and her demeanor returned to the Devil Queen's demeanor. Don't get me wrong, I'm just bored and asked this question out of curiosity. Interested, that's it. Hearing this, Lu Ruoxian smiled lightly and replied, making Zhongli feel like she couldn't argue. However, with her current personality, she was not in a hurry to explain. After a moment of silence, Zhongli finally couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked Lu Ruoxian beside her. What kind of person is he? I didn't want to mention Xiao Chen again, for fear that Lu Ruoxian would misunderstand. But now that the other party has misunderstood, it doesn't matter if there is more misunderstanding. If you can learn more about Xiao Chen through Lu Ruoxian, you can also have an intuitive judgment when doing things in the future. After all, this man is too mysterious. He was more elusive than any man she had ever seen before. So it was necessary for her to find out more. When Lu Ruoxian heard this, he smiled lightly and did not refuse to answer the question. Looking towards the distant sky, he began to tell about Xiao Chen. In her opinion, this demon queen of the Northern Territory began to be curious about Xiao Chen. No, it was when he was sealed in the Tianyuan Shenshuan mirror. From the moment he was randomly teleported back by Xiao Chen, the gears of fate were already turning. The other party will definitely be her good sister in the future. Therefore, it is necessary for Zhongli to learn more about the various miracles Xiao Chen has created. In this thought, although Lu Ruoxian did not use an exaggerated narrative method, he completely presented Xiao Chen's growth experience in the past few months to Zhongli's ears. Let this demon queen of the Northern Territory exclaim from time to time. The next day, Xiao Chen opened his eyes energetically. Feeling that his cultivation is completely stable at the 8th level of Saint King, and his foundation has become more solid than before. There was also a smile on his lips. This is the case. I'm afraid it won't be long before I can hit the 9th level of Saint King, or even break through to the supreme level. Cultivation is really so simple. After feeling a bit, Xiao Chen shouted to Kayan and others before they came back to their senses. Each one is like a flower that has just been nourished by the rain, dew and nectar, and their expressions and postures are so alluring. After some grinding and chirping, Xiao Chen and his party walked out of the pavilion and landed on the square below. When Xiao Chen landed on the ground, he found Zhongli staring straight at him. That look, it was as if he wanted to cut him into slices and study them, which made Xiao Chen feel a little baffled. What are there flowers on my face? After being stared at by Zhongli for a while, Xiao Chen finally asked. Seeing Xiao Chen lost in thought, Zhongli couldn't help being stunned when she suddenly heard these words. Immediately afterwards, seeing Xiao Chen's suspicious and weird look on his face, Kayan and others also looking strange, Zhongli felt a little embarrassed for a moment. But the next moment, she returned to her arrogant look and spoke with a bit of disdain. I just want to see if you will be weak if you are so unrestrained. But even though he said this, he was still very uneasy inside. After listening to Lu Ruoxian's account of Xiao Chen's deeds in the past few months yesterday, she felt that her knowledge for thousands of years had been completely overturned. In less than 4 months, he has grown from the 3rd level of Kaiyuan to the 8th level of Saint King. Even the divine descendants are not so terrifying. The opponent can also instantly repair injuries, directly improve the quality of spiritual objects, and even improve talents and qualifications. These kinds of unnatural methods made Xiao Chen extremely mysterious in her heart. Let her also. The desire to explore the other person in detail and get to know them more deeply becomes more and more intense. So after Xiao Chen walked out, he was fascinated for a while. And walked out, he was fascinated for a while. And walked out, he was fascinated.